Okay, Chair, we're now streaming live on YouTube. I hand the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. Good evening and welcome to East Devon District Council's virtual cabinet meeting this evening, 31st of March 2021. I am in the chair, Councillor Paul Arnott, leader of the council. Welcome anybody who's watching this via live streaming. Everybody here today is taking part remotely, of course, so we're being live streamed, and bear this in mind if you will, and be careful with your language and be mindful of the code of conduct applying throughout. We reserve the right to remove and disconnect any participant who is disrupting the meeting by whatever means. Please could you remember to turn off any telephones as well, or set them to silent. This meeting is dependent upon the internet and also a power supply, and if we lose them after 15 minutes, if we can't reconnect, then we'll adjourn the meeting and reconvene at a later date, and the details will be on our website. Please everybody, could you keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking, and also as ever, please keep points short and avoid repetition if you can, and of course don't interrupt. If you wish to comment, please raise an electronic hand and wait to be called. All councillors have been sent the agenda today, which you can also see at eastdevon.gov.uk. We'll now start the meeting by doing a roll call of Cabinet Committee members here present. Can you please now, Cabinet, unmute your microphone when you hear your name? Please confirm by saying present and then go back to mute. Thank you. Amanda, please.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott.
Present.
Councillor Hayward.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
Councillor Hookway.
Present.
Councillor Jackson.
Present.
Councillor Young. Councillor Young.
He was here.
He's here, but he's not on, he's on mute.
I'll come back to Councillor Young. Councillor Ledger.
Thank you, Amanda.
Councillor Loudon.
Present, Amanda. Thank you.
Councillor Rickson.
Present.
Councillor Rowland.
Present, thanks, Amanda.
And Councillor Young, can you hear me?
Looks to me, Amanda, as if he's gone back out, and I imagine he's trying to come back in again.
Okay, yes, not
So
to worry.
should we
Anyway,
log
I
him
can
in?
confirm, yes, all right. I can confirm you are quorate, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Amanda. Agenda item 1 is public speaking. We have one public speaker today, Josie Parkhouse, in relation to agenda item 26, restart grants. I'm just looking at the agenda. Josie, if you're there, you're very welcome to speak just before item 26 if you want, but I would warn you, it's the last item on tonight's agenda. You could be here for as long as 8 or 9 hours. So up to you, really. Josie, would you like to speak now or sit through the other 25 items first?
What's a kind of ballpark estimate of how long it will be?
Well, people take bets on this. It could be a couple of hours.
I'm happy to speak now. I think some of my questions will potentially be answered later, though, so I'm not sure. It's up to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, as Amanda will confirm, you've got 3 minutes then, please. And you'll
Chair, sorry to interrupt. I believe that Josie Parkhouse may be a Labour Party candidate for the forthcoming elections. So I'm just mentioning this because of Purdah.
Ah, okay. Josie, I'm afraid I'm not a hypocrite on this. My widely read column in the Midweek Herald today has all been about Purdah. Henry, would you be able to advise me, please, on this?
Well, I mean, obviously you don't know what Josie's going to say, but I mean, this is normal business at the council, but it's not the council doing anything. It's not the council publicity. So obviously she's entitled to speak as a member of the public, but I would, as I think you're probably suggesting, that she doesn't stray into the politics of matters.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Loudon and then Councillor Rowland just helping on this one as well. Councillor Loudon.
Thank you, Chair. Given you've invited Josie to speak on this item, it would seem appropriate, would it not, to bring this item forward if the officers are teed up, ready to do that? It just seems, I just think it's unhelpful to invite a member of the public to speak. That's not unhelpful. But then then we go ahead and deal with another 25 items. And by the time we get to deal with item 26 on the agenda, we've forgotten half of what she said.
Okay, it's an interesting suggestion, Councillor Loudon. We're slightly dependent upon whether Libby Jarrett would be able to do that. Libby, are you here yet? I wouldn't blame you if you weren't.
Through the chair, it's Simon Davey, Chair.
Are you
Libby's
doing
on
it, Simon?
leave. Libby's on leave,
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
going to take the item.
Okay, so hypothetically, if you were queued up in about 2 or 3 minutes, Simon, would you be good to go?
I would be good to go. I wasn't going to do too much justice to the report, so I'll be good to go.
Oh, no, you don't. Okay, Councillor Rowland as well, please.
Thank you, Leader. It's leading on from what Councillor Loudon said. I was actually going to suggest whether we could suspend standing orders with the agreement of Cabinet members to bring the item forward so that she could speak and then we could discuss the item straight afterwards. So it's along the theme of what Councillor Loudon said. But I think perhaps we need to agree a suspension of standing orders to move the agenda item up the list.
Thank you. I believe I have the hideous power to do that without suspending standing orders, but just for appearance's sake, let's Cabinet, are you all happy with that? If anybody isn't, just wave a fist at me or something. No, okay, thank you very much. In which case, right now, Josie, you've had a formal warning, and we can cut you off if this turns into a Labour campaign speech. You're in trouble. But if you stick to the point, it'll be very good to hear from you. So over to you for your 3 minutes, please.
Great, thank you. So yeah, my name's Josie Parkhouse. So today I'm representing some of the 3 million nationally who've been excluded from any government or EDDC support during COVID who live in East Devon. So I wrote to Councillor Hayward about the spending of COVID grants and gratefully received a response earlier today, which I thank him and his team for. However, I've got a few clarification questions I'd like to ask. So I was disappointed to hear that as of 3:30 today, when I got this email, there's currently £50,000 of outstanding funding from the local restriction support grants due to go back to the Treasury. Can you now confirm how much exactly was sent back? Second, in your response, you stated that you settled on the £250 threshold for ARG applications after modelling showed it was the most fair way to distribute funds. My question is, did this modelling also take into consideration whether businesses would have received funding from central government in the form of furlough and SEIS and other funds? Third, you call the £250 monthly fixed non-domestic business costs ongoing fixed costs, but you failed to mention in your response that you've previously only counted these costs if they're fixed non-domestic business costs, which obviously excludes a lot of home-based businesses, which can still have high monthly outgoings. So can you clarify whether you now accept home-based businesses and their associated costs or not? Fourth, we're hearing more examples of businesses in East Devon who hadn't received any support being granted ARG funds in the last week, which is really good, but there's no guarantee that this will be the last lockdown. So can you assure me and the other local businesses I represent that they're now on your radar and won't be excluded from future support? Fifth, we've heard evidence that some businesses that fit within ARG criteria had their applications rejected on the basis that their businesses were not key to East Devon's economy. This created what one business owner called a business apartheid, whereby businesses which fell outside the categories of retail, tourism and leisure were treated as less important to the local economy. Bearing in mind these are all taxpayers, how will your team attempt to remedy this loss of trust? And lastly, I'm glad to hear that only 7 applications were rejected in the first round of ARG funding. I'd just like to clarify how many were rejected in the second round, and
30 seconds left.
And also how your team will attempt to reach those who were put off by the 250 criteria and didn't even apply for the ARG funds. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a hell of a list of questions, and I know that we know the answers. And I'd also want to point out two things, if I may, Josie, without, I hope, seeming patronising. I am aware of the extraordinary amount of work that the officers have done to deliver these schemes, which have scheme by scheme changed as we've been going through the last year. And although I wouldn't say that what you're doing is nitpicking for political purposes, it has actually been an extraordinary success. I think the other thing I would say, if I may, just before I might ask Councillor Haywood to come back for a sec, is I never use the word apartheid in this context. I think that's rather offensive. There is no such thing in relation to any of these matters. Paul Haywood, I wonder, that's 6 or 7 questions. Would you rather respond to them in writing? What do you think?
I was going to ask if Josie can sort of email me those supplementary questions, then I'll get a response back to her as soon as I can. I suppose the one that goes across the whole spectrum of them is that we are basing our schemes on national guidance. There are criteria to apply. Every local authority has decided to administer them differently depending on their own circumstances. A lot of districts don't have that much tourism, so they've dealt with them different ways. But I suppose that the one point that goes across all of them is that this isn't to protect people's income. And a lot of home workers, their costs are the cost whether they work from home or not. We've had claims in which we've had to decline for mortgage payments, for electricity, utility bills, which are not directly attributable to those home businesses. They're there whether they work from home or not. As a former handyman myself, I would have not qualified for any of these schemes because I didn't have those business costs. My income would have still suffered. And there I take your point entirely that this is a failure elsewhere. And I'll leave it as that because we are in Purdah, but a failure elsewhere to recognise that some people fall outside of those gaps. There are 3 million excluded that you refer to. But if you wouldn't mind sending those through, I can then consult with officers, one of whom who knows more than probably everyone in this room combined is currently on leave, and I'll get the exact breakdown for you, certainly as to how many were excluded in the last tranche. I'm pretty certain, as the delegated authority that was given by the ARG panel last week, that £50,000 will be whittled down, one hopes, to less than 1 penny, and that because it's been our wish, the whole cross-party ARG panel from the very outset, that we don't give 1 penny back to the Treasury and that it goes into the East Devon economy. And I personally would be very upset if we've given back even 1 penny to Mr. Sunak. Yes, if you'd be so kind as to do that, I'll get those answers to you ASAP. And thank you for your questions. And I know you're, in this context, you're doing it on behalf of the residents of Exmouth. And for that, I applaud you because, someone has to look out for the people who have missed out. And so thank you for doing that for them.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haywood. I saw Councillor Rowland, our portfolio holder for finance, nodding along there. Is there anything you'd like to add, Jack, or do you think it's covered?
No, I was simply nodding to agree with a number of points that have been made, and to really stress that we recognise that some people weren't going to fit into the criteria that hasn't been set by us, but was set by government. So I actually want to also applaud what the council officers have done because it has been a continually changing picture in view of the grants, in view of overlapping periods, short periods. And then, as Councillor Haywood said, we were, as I'm also a member of the ARG panel, we were committed that not a penny should go back to central government, and this has to be used for the benefit the economy in East Devon. So I welcome the questions that have been asked, and I'm sure a fulsome reply will be sent back.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Josie, for your questions as well. And good luck. May the best person win in your ward on May the 6th. Thank you for that. Right. So we then go, therefore, straight to agenda item 26, restart grants. And we've got the very short report, comments indeed, from Simon Davey. If you could come forward, please, Simon.
Thank you, Chair. The question related to the ARG scheme. This report actually relates to the Restart Grant Scheme. So this is a new scheme announced in the Chancellor's statement. Comes in.
Actually, Simon, shall I stop you there then? Because actually, you're quite right. It's the questions didn't bear on agenda item 26 as it happened. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I'll save you for later, Simon. Sorry if you look forward to. Okay, well, thank you for that.
Then, Chair. Almost finished, but okay. That's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, we do now go to the item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone has a comment, please do this by raising your electronic hand. If no hands are raised, I will assume that those minutes are agreed. And forgive me, I'm having trouble seeing who's got hands up at the moment. There are no hands up, in which case those minutes of that previous meeting of the 17th of March 2021 are agreed. Agenda item 3 is apologies, please. Amanda, are we aware of any apologies tonight?
I have no apologies, no. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now do agenda item 4, which is a declaration of interest, and this will be done by roll call. And back to Amanda again, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Arnott.
I'd better declare an interest in Josie's public speaking, because our little B&B has been a beneficiary of one of the additional grants. So just to declare that, but nothing else though. That's a personal interest. Well, actually, personal pecuniary, I don't know. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
I think you declared it personally as a personal interest previously.
Thanks, Henry.
Councillor Hayward.
Thank you. Yes. Certainly under agenda item 26, the restart grants, I am the treasurer to a charity which runs a community centre, and we are a potential recipient of grant funding under this scheme. I gain no pecuniary advantage from my role as treasurer. It's an unpaid role, but I will declare a personal interest. That's a Newton Poppleford Playing Field Foundation. There is another one which I just asked Henry really for some guidance. Agenda item 13, which is the minutes of the Asset Management Forum. As the chair of that, Henry, do I have to declare an interest, or that's just, no, okay, that's superfluous. Thank you very much, Amanda. Just item 26, please, then.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Oh, sorry, Amanda. I don't think I've got any interest now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hookway.
No, I don't think so. No, thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Oh, I'm unmuted now. No, thank you.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Amanda. No, I haven't got any interest. I do apologise. I've got problems with my computer and I can't raise any hand at the moment. I'm trying to get my other computer back up running.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ledger.
And that I'm aware of, Amanda. Thank you.
Councillor Loudon.
Yes, Amanda. Item 15, Sidmouth and East Beach Beach Management Plan. I think it's personal. I am the ward member for for the part of Sidmouth, which is directly affected by East Beach and the proposals in the report. And I'm also a member of the Beach Management Plan steering group, subgroup.
Thank you. Councillor Rickson.
None, thank you.
And Councillor Rowland.
Thanks, Amanda. None that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Amanda. I'm mindful that Councillor Steve Gazzard has got a raised hand. I'm very sorry, Steve. Have I missed you on a previous item?
No, thank you, Chair. I was just going to declare for openness and transparency an interest in item 16, Exmouth Beach Management Plan. I may want to speak on that because I'm an Exmouth Town Councillor. And item 18, which is the events strategy. I may want to speak on that because I'm hoping to arrange an event on the Strand in July in memory of my late daughter's research programme. So they are personal. I've got nothing pecuniary to gain from them, but I just thought I'd put the record straight.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that. Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. Okay, so that completes the interest declarations. Agenda item 5 is late items or matters of urgency. There is one which we have at 26, which is the restart grants. 6 confidential or exempt items, none have been identified for this evening. Agenda item 7 is the forward plan, and I'm asking if members are happy to note that, please, or anybody would like to speak on that. There's nobody there, nobody outside cabinet, nobody inside cabinet, in which case those are noted. Thank you. Agenda item 8, the minutes of the Property Working Panel from the 15th of February 2021. Are members happy to note these minutes? Again, I'll take that as an affirmative unless there is a hand raised of some kind, in which case those are duly noted. Agenda item 9, the minutes of the LED Monitoring Forum of the 23rd of February 2021. Again, asking members if you're happy to note these minutes. Looking for anybody outside cabinet, inside cabinet. Okay, I take those as noted as well. Thank you. Agenda item 11, the minutes of the car parking TAF from the 3rd of March 2021. Again, calling for anybody there.
Excuse me, Chair, you've missed out item 10.
The Arts and Culture Forum. I'm just trying to keep you sharp there, Amanda. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go back to the agenda item 10, the minutes of the Arts and Culture Forum on the 24th of February 2021. Now, anybody want to denounce those in any way? No, that looks good as well. So those are noted. Thank you. Now, agenda item 11, the minutes of the car parking TAF from the 3rd of March 2021. Are members happy to note these minutes? Yes, those are duly noted. Thank you. Agenda item 12, the minutes of the Scrutiny Committee held on the 4th of March 2021. Are members happy to note those minutes? I see no hands, in which case, thank you, duly noted. Right, now, having done that and whipped through those, and thank you for that, agenda item 14, which is an exemption from standing orders to do with the appointment of TerraQuest. Oh, sorry.
That's before me,
number 13, asset management.
Ah,
forum.
Lordy. Okay. The agenda item 13 is the minutes of the Asset Management Forum held on the 9th of March 2021. Anybody want to say anything about that? Inside, outside cabinet, inside cabinet? No, in which case those are noted as well. Sorry. I know it looks like I'm auditioning to be an auctioneer, doesn't it? And I'm going too fast. I'll slow down next time. Right, agenda item 14 then is the exemption from standing orders, the appointment of TerraQuest. We have a report here from our service lead for planning, strategy and development management, Mr. Ed Freeman. Over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Chairman. So just in brief.
Ed. Right, Ed, can I come in very quickly? I'm chair. I'm just going to say that.
I do apologise.
Yeah, That's
Sorry.
okay. I'm just.
Force of habit.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm a 50p in the pot every time you say it. Thank you, Ed. Off we go. Thank you.
Apologies, Chair. So the report relates to exemption from standing orders to appoint TerraQuest to undertake an initial assessment of incoming planning applications to check that they comply with our information requirements. This is for the purposes of addressing workload pressures within the development management team, which arise from unprecedented demand for our services over the last 6 months to a year, which has seen the number of applications on hand grow to unmanageable levels, such that additional support is needed. The appointment of TerraQuest is a departure from standing orders because they are effectively the only organisation that we believe can fulfil the brief that we've given, as they operate the planning portal and are in a position to intercept incoming applications and undertake this check against our validation requirements prior to the applications coming across to us to actually consider the application and make a determination. So that's the basis for which the exemption has been sought, and ask members to note that exemption to standing orders. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed. Would anybody from outside of Cabinet want to speak on that? Please indicate by raising a hand. Councillor Steve Gazzard, please. Or was that a... Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I fully understand where Ed Freeman's coming from, because I do know, as I do sit on the planning committee, that our officers are under extreme pressure with the amount of applications that are coming in. The only query I have is, if I read it properly, it's going to cost £40,000. I mean, is Mr. Freeman will probably know better than me. Is that a going rate for doing the job, and that will be for, would that be for every planning application that comes into the office, please?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Ed, are you happy to come back on that one?
Yes, certainly, Chair. We think the contract is excellent value for money compared to the alternative, which is to bring in planning consultants to help us to deal with this workload, who would generally command quite a high salary. This contract should free up about 2 to 3 officers' time. So if you relate that to a £40,000 contract for them to deal, to look at the validation of every incoming planning application for sort of the next 6 months, which is what we envisage happening, we actually think that's excellent value for money compared to the cost of alternatives of providing the sort of additional support for the team that this proposal would provide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer, Ed. Councillor Mike Howell, please.
Thank you very much, and I just want to praise Ed and hopefully the Cabinet for hopefully they're going to allow this to happen, because obviously our planning team are extremely under the cosh. I think everyone that's seen the rise in applications, particularly smaller applications, not so much the big ones at present, but particularly household applications, know our planning team is extremely under pressure, as all our officers are across the piece. But each one has their own little area they've got to deal with, and planning has an awful lot of timelines and deadlines and everything else they need to do. I suppose the question I've got for Ed is more about quality control. I know they've done the pre-conditions and everything else, but even with our own officers doing the assessment sometimes, quality control is not 100%. It never can be when humans are involved. But I just want to make sure we've got it right if this company of I can't even pronounce it now, TerraQuest, doesn't live up to expectations, what sort of penalties there will be in the contract, etc., 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 just to make sure they are doing the job, I hope, and for Ed's team and everyone else, they do achieve, shall we say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Not quite sure if Ed can really answer that. You're getting into details of the contract there, but Ed, you may not know if there are penalties. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, hopefully I can reassure Councillor Howe that TerraQuest have offered this service to a number of other councils across the country. So they come with excellent references, having done an excellent job elsewhere, as we understand it. They've also been receiving training from our own officers over the last couple of weeks to ensure that they're very familiar with our own information requirements. So we're confident that they understand the task and will be able to do that. In the event that they don't, I believe we have the ability to ultimately terminate the contract. So, but all they are doing, I would emphasise, is checking the incoming information to ensure that it meets our requirements. They are not considering applications in terms of their planning merits or making any determinations. Those powers firmly rest with ourselves in accordance with the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Thank you, Councillor Howe, for your question. Coming back into Cabinet now, Councillor Marianne Rickson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say, is this, regardless of the number of applications which come in, the reason I'm asking this is because reading Devon Live earlier today, it appears that lots of people from outside the area are snapping up properties without even coming to look at them. They're just buying from the estate agents, and they're extremely busy. So I'm just wondering whether we're going to have a huge growth in people wanting to come down here, and then there'll be the adjustments to their property that they'll probably seek as a result.
Okay, thanks, Marianne. That's sort of an academic, it's a hypothetical question, that, isn't it? So, but it's a good point. Councillor Dan Ledger, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just happy to propose that we note this. It's something it's a decision that's already been made. It's much needed, and it's just help that we need to give to Ed and his team to start whittling down those planning applications. Well, the live planning applications, I think it's well documented. There's over 650 live ones at the moment, and we need to get that down to a manageable level. So we don't need to really talk about it much. I'm happy to propose it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ledger. So on that wise advisory note from you, Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. Really supporting what Councillor Howe has said. It does take pressure off our planning team. Councillor Ledger has hit the nail on the head as well. You know, there are huge amounts of applications coming through. One of my parishes, small parishes, had 10 applications, unheard of in all the time I've clerked for them, to have 10 applications on one agenda. And the key point is within the exemption report that it makes efficient use of professional planners who could be doing better things and better used, liaising with applicants, agents, etc. I've sat through many a meeting where applications have come through, and there have been small niggly things, but they slow down the process. So if TerraQuest have got form and they come with good references, I'm happy to second what Councillor Ledger has proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillor Megan Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I have to keep looking at my agenda and going on a black screen, so I'm sorry it takes me a minute to get back. Thank you. Yes, and I agree with what everybody else has said about the need for we need to get these applications down. But I just wanted to just check some things which perhaps I should have known already, but I don't, to Ed. So is this for this initial 6-month contract, and what happens after that?
Okay, is that so, Ed?
I've got some other questions. I've got some other questions.
Oh, well, go
as
on
well.
then.
Shall I carry on?
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I thought dramatically. Yeah, please.
Are household applications included? What kind of information will be checked? And I don't need a great lot of information, but I know with some of the stuff that I've been dealing with in the last year or two, I feel that there's information there that should be there that isn't. And I'm just wondering what kind of information will be checked. For example, design and access statements. How is it checked whether they're needed? And is this the kind of thing that this organisation, TerraQuest, will be looking at? It's just getting an idea of the kinds of things they'll be looking at. And if he needs to write to me about that, that's fine. But I just would be reassured to know what kinds of things that they'll be covering.
Ed, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Can you cover that in 60 seconds, or would you rather give a written answer?
No, Chair, happy to cover that quickly now. I mean, it's a 6-month contract because partly we wanted to run this for a trial period to see how it runs, but also we see it as a short-term measure to bring down the numbers of applications on hand and help to give us more capacity to do that. So I hope if it works that we will achieve that, get the numbers of applications back under control, and then we'll be able to manage this work and bring it back in-house again at the end of that period. Obviously, if that doesn't happen, then we can look at arrangements to extend the arrangement with TerraQuest if necessary and bring that back to you at that time. Certainly householder applications will be included, yes. It includes all types of applications that we receive, and the information they'll be checking will be things from ensuring that we've got all the correct plans and that they're to the appropriate scales, but also things like design and access statements are included where they need to be, statements of significance for listed buildings, heritage statements, etc. In accordance with our validation checklist, which is on our website if you're interested, which details the information requirements for each type of application.
Right, okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Thank you, Ed, again. We've got, right, no more hands showing, in which case we've got a proposer and a seconder. Can I go to Amanda to help us take a vote on this, please?
Cabinet, please, can you use your green ticks or green ticks is if you're in support, or red crosses if you're against, or raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. For those watching online, the vote is underway, and that's unanimous in favour, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And thank you, Ed, for your report. Agenda item 15, the Sidmouth and East Beach Management Plan. The option to pause revised preferred working draft option, outline business case, and reconsider alternative options. And I can see Tom Buxton Smith there, the engineering projects manager, who I think is going to say a few words to us. Tom, please.
Thank you, Chair. This time last year, the scheme was £1.5 million short of being fully funded. However, in 2020, central government updated their funding mechanism to allow additional funding. Over the course of a year, we've worked on it and found actually there's a much higher eligibility than was initially thought. We understand that the Sidmouth scheme is controversial in many ways, and largely the option we arrived at is a very good one, but it was also limited by what we could initially afford back with the old calculator. Now that with the further eligibility, there is a desire to see if a better scheme can be delivered than the one currently proposed. However, to do that, we'll pause the project while we investigate these options to see if they're technically viable. This report also looks into the option of investigating temporary defences at East Beach to help reduce erosion in the short term while we revisit options. We're also looking to have Cabinet increase the contribution from East Devon to 500k to match other partners, and what has been publicly pledged. The report is based on the recommendation of the Sidmouth and East Beach Management Plan Advisory Group, who have recommended that the project be paused to investigate these options. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Tom, and thank you for very well aware of the incredible work you've been doing and helping us to access this extra funding, which gives us the option coming from the Beach Management Plan Committee of looking at option B as being viable. Can I ask for any speakers from outside of Cabinet, please, who would like to speak? Denise Bickley, Councillor Denise Bickley, please.
Thank you, Chair. As ward member for Sidmouth Town, I would just like to say a huge thank you to the group for changing the ethos of the beach management plan. It seems to be so much more positive, and is listening to everybody and really going back to the drawing board. I think if we were desperate to plough ahead, it's like being on the M5 when you want to be on the M4. It's pointless keep going with the wrong plan. So I think going back to the drawing board and finding some really good ways to change it and make everybody in the town as happy as they can be, whilst satisfying all the professional bodies who have their say on it. If we can get to that result, then that will be fantastic. So I think this pausing and put a temporary solution in for now, but pause it and go back to the drawing board and really get it right. That's so important. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bickley. Can I come to Councillor Jeff Young, please?
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of this council and especially the people in Sidmouth, I would like to thank Tom Buxton-Smith and the team for turning around a very controversial scheme without funding to a scheme that has enough funding, hopefully, to do the job that protects the residential properties and improves the amenity of the beach at the same time. Shall I delay here and make a proposal, or make a proposal now?
You can make a proposal now, Councillor Young.
Yeah, well, there is a choice on proposal 1 is continue with the preferred option, or to pause the project for 6 months to look at the viability of other previously dismissed options, given that they may now be affordable. If we do go for that, then we have, I think it's imperative that we go for 2, which is to Cabinet approve the investigation of a temporary planning permission and installation of rock armour at East Beach, which is protecting basically the cliffs and the gardens and the properties on Cliff Road. I think it's imperative that if we delay the scheme, we need to see if we can get some temporary rock abatement on that beach as early as possible. And then recommendation 3 and then recommendation 4. So if I can recommend all the options and go for option B on 1.
Thank you, Kelly. I was just asking if anybody wanted to second that, or have I gone quiet? Councillor, yeah, Councillor.
You went quiet for a minute.
Oh, sorry. Oh, this could be a long night. Sorry about that. Yeah, Councillor Loudon's hand flashed up a second before Councillor Hookway's, so I'll take Councillor Loudon as a seconder. Councillor Hookway, would you like to speak on this?
No, I was just going to second the proposal, and also give my thanks to officers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Loudon, your ward?
In part it is, Chair. Sidmouth Rural, East Beach, and the residents, particularly at the top in Cliff Road, whose parts of whose gardens are falling daily into the sea. So they have a great deal at stake in all of this. Frankly, so do I. I want to echo what everybody has said in terms of the great work that has been done, particularly by officers over the last couple of years in turning this all around. And I think this is something we can all as a council be very proud of. So I give them my thanks. I think, though, we need to have a thought for the residents above East Beach, because if we do as Councillor Young is proposing, and in which I support and I seconded, then it brings added angst and anxiety to them, because they thought under the previous proposal, which wasn't necessarily the best one, but it's the one we could afford, they thought they knew what was going to happen and when. Now they're less certain, and that keeps their anxiety going. And therefore, in order to give them support and encouragement and succour, we need to go with 1B in this, and we also then need to look and implement recommendation 2. So I would very much support this and hope that we can deliver all of this in good time, particularly for those residents, as well as the rest of the town.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. So let's, just to be clear, what we'll be voting on Cabinet is that under recommendation 1, it is in fact to consider and resolve to either option A or option B, and our current proposal is to go with option B. Resolution 2 then flows from that, and then we're asked to recommend to Council 3 and 4, which are basically the financial aspects. So I hope that's all clear. So Amanda, can we go to a vote, please?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. So I have 8 votes in favour of the motion and 2 abstentions, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Amanda. Right, it's a seaside special tonight, so we now go to agenda item 16, the Exmouth Beach Management Scheme. And once again, I believe we come back to Tom Buxton-Smith. So Tom, your dice again.
Thank you, Chair. Exmouth, we already have an existing beach management plan, but it's coming towards the end, and it's within our service plan to update it. We have noticed, and we've been told that the beach is experiencing loss in multiple places, and in fact the beach management plan in place says in the 2020s we should start to expect this. There's been a long-term loss in places, but also a long-term gain. This is due to many factors, which climate change, but also how the beach is being used and other bits and pieces. We're keen to set up a group to look at how we can best manage the beach going forward, both in the short term and the long term. Unlike Sidmouth, this Exmouth Beach is primarily an amenity beach, and it doesn't offer any flood defence purposes to notable buildings. So there's not millions of pounds from central government waiting to be tapped into from a flood defence perspective, but there could be alternative funding that we need to look into. So this report is outlining the beach loss and gain in places of Exmouth, but also options that we could look into, again pending funding, of how we could deliver improvements to the beach. It also suggests that we set up a separate advisory group, which will use local people, local knowledge to help best steer the option of where we're going, rather than make a knee-jerk reaction without speaking to local knowledge. We are tied to various rules and regulations, and what we can do in the very short term is fairly limited. So we need to make the best use of funds and time to deliver what we can to help keep Exmouth Beach healthy and therefore good for amenity and the tourism that relies on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Tom. If I can come please to outside of Cabinet first for speakers on this, and come to Councillor Eileen Wragg, please. Eileen.
Thank you, Chair. This is something that, I've watched over many, well, decades, really. It's something that's been of concern, certainly to local people. I'm really pleased that there is going to be local knowledge engaged in the in whatever will happen, because in the past we've had, you know, actions taken which have been beyond our control. I'm talking about councillors who weren't in the ruling group, maybe, whereby groins have been left to rot, fall into disrepair. Now we know groins keep that, they hold the sand levels, they hold the beach levels. You only have to look at Orkham Point to see what's happened out there, where there used to be gravel, really, when I was a kid. There is now sand, and there's so much sand out there. There was also marram grass, which was removed by the council, this council, some years ago, many years ago, and that added to the depletion of the beach sand. So, and again, there were lorry loads of sand being taken away to other places. So really, you do need people who've observed over many, many years the actions, the wave action, what it's done, the erosion, everything else. There was a very interesting report at one time. Well, there were two. One was written by Professor Dr. Laming, Laming, and I think he was from Woodbury. And there was another one, the Coombe report, which was commissioned by the late Exmouth Town Councillor, Jim Shapter, who had a very wide knowledge of this part of the coast. So really pleased, and I hope that these things will be revisited, and that the local marine going people, fishermen, coxswains of the lifeboat, they know the difficulties that are facing them now in getting the lifeboat out. There are so many factors in this, and add into that equation climate change, global warming, rising sea levels. There's so much to be considered. So we need both a combination of local knowledge going back many years and the scientific facts, evidence-based. So very much welcome this. It has to be a very wide participation, hopefully not too many people, but certainly people with significant contributions to make. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wragg. So the next speaker from outside of Cabinet is Councillor Peter Faithful, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Talking about going back in history, I don't know if Councillor Eileen Wragg will remember this far back. I hope she can't, because I've got maps going back to 1757, one at 1809, and another ordnance survey around surveyed about 1888 and republished in 1904, all of which show the end of the Warren as a separate island to the main Warren. They also show the main channel. You got Checkstone Ledge, used to be out in the middle of the main channel. The channel has since moved, and so it's because the channel has moved, that's what's taking the sand away. So long as the inside of the Warren side, the pole sand side, is left where it is, you can chuck as much sand as you want onto the beach and the current will take it away. The only way, if it can justify putting man-made interference out on the Warren to join the island with the main Warren, then surely we can justify dredging out the main channel further out to take the current away from the beach, and that's what will cause the sand to settle on the seafront. Because until the channel has been put back out around Checkstone Ledge, the sand will continue to get washed away. Anyway, I can happily send. I was putting together an email, and I can send the maps and things and link to the Ordnance Survey at Scotland Library map, if you would like, and if that would help.
Thank you, Councillor Faithful. I imagine Tom Buxton-Smith would be grateful to have a look at that, and it will help in discussions if indeed it is agreed that this steering is set up. Can I come next outside of Cabinet to Councillor Steve Gazzard, please, Steve?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would agree entirely with what Councillor Wragg had to say just now. I welcome the report, but I am mindful that there was a report, Beach Management Plan, done several years ago, and I don't think there was much that was enacted upon that report. So I really hope that when this report is done, that actions will be taken. I was down there today at low tide, and the beach is changed beyond all recognition. The new sandbanks that we've got down there now, the wonderful sand, as Councillor Wragg has said, that we've got down at Orcombe Point and around the corner, beautiful part of the beach now. But from the clock tower up to the lifeboat station, we have lost a tremendous amount of sand. And I went down previously and I measured the drop from the lifeboat ramp. Now, as you know, the lifeboat can't go out, and it's over 6 foot drop. So that's the amount of sand that we've lost from that area. And yesterday I was down there and the inshore lifeboat had to go out, and they have to, at low tide, move it way down the seafront so that they can get into deeper water. So as we always say in Exmouth, the Exmouth seafront is a jewel in our crown. And what concerns me is that hopefully, you know, Easter's coming, and then when lockdown finally goes in June, people will come to Exmouth and see, you know, maybe for the first time. And the state that the beach is in at the moment, they may get a false impression because we do advertise it as a, you know, golden beach. And obviously there are the concerns about the pipes, the groins, and the metalwork that's all been exposed, you know, dangers for swimmers. So I welcome the report, and I hope, you know, that there will be some short-term measures taken, because if not, I'm really concerned about what will happen to the tourism in Exmouth. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gazzard. So remaining with a local perspective, I think Councillor Bruce Tessara, please.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you ever so much. Yes, I note that, as has been said, we have an amenity beach. I think that's very positive. I look at the report and I see in para 5.2, it says we will look to make a capital bid to fund the development of the scheme. So I just wanted to ask Tom, how successful are we going to be for this capital bid, given that it goes on to say at 5.6, given 5.4, it's worth highlighting that any physical works will likely be funded by local means, EDC at capital budget and partner contributions. So that's what I would like to find out today. I welcome the report, as other members have already said, and I also would like to know how successful we're going to be, because that's the key to how we can make it go and be a successful project.
I think, Councillor Tessara, thank you for that question, Councillor Tessara. I'm guessing you're asking Tom to take a guess that he can't know the answer to. Tom, I don't know. I mean, you'll use your best endeavours, I'm guessing, but is there anything you can say on that?
Yes, essentially, as I mentioned before, central government funding, such as SIDMouth, is very unlikely to be available in the quantities that we need it. So this will have to be a locally funded scheme, unless we find other pockets of money. So really, it's as big. It's finding about a solution which we're happy locally to be able to afford and pay for. So it really, it could be small or it could be big, but these are conversations we need to look at and use a bit of science to try and understand what sort of scale we're going to need to have have a decent effect. So yes, at the moment it's very difficult to say, but it's whatever we can locally is will largely be funding.
Okay, Tom, I think I don't know if it's just me. You were breaking up a bit then.
You did break up.
Else as well. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm not just me. Thank you, Tom, for that. Councillor Fred Cahill, please. Fred.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. I think what we've got to do is look forward, not backwards. Albeit that the consultation document was done 5 years ago, and there's been very little done or achieved in the last 5 years. I think we now need to look forward because the whole economics of the town relies on Exmouth Seafront in many, many ways. So I think it's important that we start to look at this in detail now. And I welcome the thought of creating a locally led, with local knowledge, structured advisory group or whatever terms it's called. But I would ask Tom, in the document that was produced, the Beach Management Plan in 2015, it talked about recycling of sand. And I do feel that there is a short-term measure or a short-term measure in recycling of sand, which would probably cost not too much, maybe to do it after Easter, and close the beach for a bit and move some sand around, because the movement of the sand is not anything new on Exmouth Beach, but I think it's been a significant movement of sand over the last 5 to 10 years, and it's got worse and worse and worse. And we are in the situation where we are now, even to the point that the groins are buried. Some of the groins at Orcombe Point are completely buried by sand. So you can see how much the sand has moved and where it's moved from. At one point, beside the lifeboat station, you could step off the wall onto the sand. Now you step off the wall and it's about 20 foot down. So, you know, the movement of the sand is quite extreme. And I do feel that there's opportunity to recycle some of the sand to move it from one area to another at a very cheap cost, and quite an easy thing to do to try and bring some of the sand back. And there's no good you shaking your head, Councillor Ragg. It is in the report by the experts.
Thank you, Councillor Cahill. Tom, this isn't strictly speaking, the recommendations tonight don't actually address this, but and I'm guessing the answer is no, but I'm imagining there isn't an immediate plan to try and shift sand from where it's left to where it's ended up, Tom, at the moment.
Chair, could I take this on behalf of
yes,
Tom,
thanks,
please? That's great, yeah. So I just wanted to talk about the old 2015 BMP and some of the perceptions of not much action from that, and also, as Councillor Cahill outlines, the possibility of beach recycling within the report. He's quite right, that is an action within the 2015 BMP. It does talk about possibly using some sand from areas where it's accreting, and at the time of the BMP that was the dunes, and moving it to areas where we're losing it, as well as some recycling from Orcombe Point. The short answer is that, as the report outlines, we want to look at the science first, because as several of you have recognised, if we put sand back on the beach currently as it is, it will be washed away by the channel, because we have sea level rise, climate change, the channel has moved. We've got some other data from the Plymouth Observatory which shows the movement of the channel over time. And within the report that you have on the agenda at image 1, figure 1.1, you can see the sand movement as well. So I think if we spend money right now on moving sand from Orcombe Point, we'll just be wasting the money, unfortunately. Just to quickly address the action plan from the old BMP, and I can circulate this if you're interested. I did circulate it previously to scrutiny. We have undertaken the actions that we needed to from the 2015 plan. So it's a misnomer that we've not done anything with it. The team were aware of it. We have been tracking it. And indeed, in our service plan the last 2 years, we've name-checked this action to do something about the sand loss and bring together a report that looks into scoping what can be done. And that is a direct result of the action plan. There's lots of boring actions in there as well, which probably won't interest everyone here, but we have undertaken those, such as using the LiDAR data to move sand to areas of loss when we're doing the beach pullback. I'll leave it there, but happy to circulate more information.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for the question, Councillor Cahill, as well. Coming back briefly, I see Councillor Ragg's hand is up one more time. Or
yeah, thanks. Thank you, Leader. Just to say that we have to look back to see what's happened in the past, what's brought about these changes. And one was the closure of Exmouth docks and the heavy cargo boats, which used to bring in the timber, the coal, the grain to Exmouth docks, and to watch the navigation of those huge vessels into the narrow entrance of Exmouth dock was extraordinary. Sorry. The other thing is, while I was shaking my head regarding movement of sand, you need environmental agency permits to move sand on beaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ragg. Okay, can I come back into Cabinet then, please? And Councillor Nick Hookway, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm very grateful that this report has been presented to Cabinet today. My thanks to Tim and his team for doing that. This is a matter, and I should also declare personal interest because I'm a ward member that incorporates part of Exmouth Beach. It is a very urgent matter, this. The winter storms virtually took sand away from the area around by the lifeboat station and exposed a number of pipes, some of which were in a very dangerous condition. That's hardly likely to encourage tourism. And I support everything that's been said about the importance of this beach. I also think we need to hold the Environment Agency to account over what they've done on Dawlish Warren, because that has undoubtedly made matters worse. And allowed sand to move around the estuary. I think we also need to raise the profile of this problem, and we need to harry the Environment Agency to say, look, you're partly responsible for this, and we need to shout out loud and clear as to what's gone wrong here, so that we raise the profile, raise awareness of what needs to happen here. And if I may, I'd like to propose adoption of this report, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hookway. So Councillor Hookway is proposing that we agree with the three recommendations that are there at the moment, which is to set up an Exmouth Beach Management Plan steering group, to establish it on the basis of the terms of reference that are appended to this and membership agreed at the annual meeting of council, and that after it's been established, a new beach management plan for Exmouth with further reports be brought back to Cabinet as it develops. So that's what we'd be voting on. Councillor Jeff York, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just need to go over a couple of points. We need to be careful on what is happening on the beach and what is the causes of the beach to disappear like it has. Bear in mind that we have to work with Timbridge District Council on the Warren. We have to work with Exeter City Council on Exmouth docks and the estuary. And we obviously have to work with the Environment Agency. And on the whole, the Environment Agency does a very good job. Yes, there has been problems on the Warren. Part of the problem is that someone decided to put a knife through the geotube for about 100 meters, and that's caused a lot of damage to the geotube.
Wrong thing.
We need to again thank the engineering team to come up with this report with the benefit and lessons of the Sidmouth Beach Management Plan. We've got the structure and the knowledge now for going forward with this Exmouth plan. And now we need to I just need to go through a couple of points that now covering Councillor Ragg's points, groin or no groins. That's the big question. Groins nowadays cannot be made of wood because we can't use the wood which was teak, and we haven't got any suitable wood to make wooden groins. So more than likely, if we do have a groin, it's going to be rock. We need to, we have done a lot of work as Andrew Hancock said about what we've been doing in the last 5 years. The Beach Management Plan in 2015 did say that in the early 20s, we'll be needing to recharge the beach. And unfortunately, in early 2001, that came true far earlier than what we anticipated. It's going to cost a lot of money to recharge this beach. We need licenses to move import sand onto the beach. There's not enough sand to put on the beach. And as our engineer says, if we move the sand without knowing what is causing the disappearance of the sand, now the next tide could actually all take it away. So I would like to second the proposal, all three proposals to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Young. The riddle of the sands. Councillor Jack Rowland. Yeah, come back to Tom Buxton Smith, please, briefly. Tom, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to note, we've done some research regarding timber and groins, and Councillor Young is correct that timber is very difficult to use in groins now. However, it's not impossible, for example, using recycled timber. The issue is that the marine grade timber comes from the rainforest, so it's not sustainable. So getting hold of it is possible, and I think that Dover Council have done, but obviously asked a lot of questions bringing in material from the tropical rainforests. Locally, oak lasts about 10 years in the marine environment, and pine and other softwood lasts only 5 years. So yes, we are very limited to actually using a suitable timber for the groins as they traditionally have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for that information. Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Thank you, Leader. Events have probably overtaken me because I was simply going to be moving the 3 recommendations, but Councillor Hookway beat me to that. And I thought I was going to then second, but Councillor Young beat me to that. So I'm happy to support this. I think in view of the urgency of what's needed to be done here, it really is important that the steering group can meet as soon as possible based on the local knowledge that they have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowan, very much for that. Bronze medal, no cigar. So in which case, Amanda, can we go to a vote on this one, please?
So Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support of the motion, red crosses if you are against, and raise your electronic hand if you are abstaining. And that's unanimous in support, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Right, we're now back on dry land with agenda item 17, the Financial Monitoring Report 2020-21, month 11, which is February 2021. And we have a report from our Finance Manager, John Symes, please. John.
Thank you, Chair. The Financial Monitoring Report gives an update forecast outturn position, like you say, to the month of 11. The overall position of the general fund has improved slightly since the last report presented at month 8. The predicted overspend now stands at 1.287 million compared to the month 8 prediction of 1.386 million. The main variations making up the general fund overspend is detailed within the report, starting on agenda page 77. So they're listed in the table there. The effect of the overspend on the general fund balance is shown at 2.2 of the report. And this is highlighting that the predicted general fund balance of 3.108 million is being towards the lower end of the adopted range, which is 3 million to 3.8 million. Moving on to part 3 of the report, there's details there of the housing revenue account, and this is showing a predicted variation of 1.671 million against a budgeted surplus of 927,000. So that's making a predicted surplus against budget of 744,000. And this is summarised at the table at 3.2. Income within the housing revenue account is materially on budget and collection rates remain high. The overall favourable position is mainly down to expenditure underspends. However, year-end transfers will reduce this sum and make funds available in the next financial year. The final section of the report details capital expenditure in the year. And as with previous years, any underspends in this area will get reprofiled into a capital programme going forward. That's all I want to say on that one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed for that, John. Would anybody from outside of Cabinet like to pass any comments on that or speak on that? That's no. So can I come straight into Councillor Paul Hayward, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose a recommendation, but first and foremost, just to cheer Mr. Symes up before the Easter weekend, that your finances are actually improved somewhat, as I've added £48 to East Devon's budget with a new green bin. I don't know if that's a pecuniary interest, but things have got a lot rosier. So thank you for your report, and I'm delighted to propose the acknowledgement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hayward. Coming back out to I've got Andrew Hancock with a hand up there. Andrew, please.
Sorry, Leader, it was a thumb for applauding a green waste sign up. I do apologise.
Oh, it was. Okay, very good, very good. Right, sorry. Right, so Councillor Marianne Ritson, please.
Well, maybe there'll be some other good news forthcoming, because I believe the government is at long last looking into the loophole which has been used by people for years with regard to, is it tax evasion or avoidance? I never quite remember. It's the one about second homes, and they are seriously looking into this because it's now becoming a growing problem. And so hopefully if they close this loophole, then there could be more guaranteed money for us.
Right, well, we look forward to that in the next financial year, perhaps. Thank you, Councillor Rickson. Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Thanks. I just wanted to applaud the efforts of our officers over what's been a particularly difficult period in their skill that's been shown in producing the current situation. I just wanted to ask as well of Councillor Hayward, I'm not sure if I heard him correctly. Did he say £48 or 48k? I was hoping it might be the latter.
I haven't checked the my bank statement. If it's 48k, then well, I'll take an even bigger round of applause, Councillor Rowland. Thank you. But
so, Councillor, am I taking that as seconding the proposal? Oh, it's all gone quiet. Jack, are you seconding there?
Yeah, I think there was something to do with the Strata update then that suddenly appeared on the
Did
screen.
we all get that? I thought that was me. Yeah,
No, we all got that. I think if you press the wrong button, we might all be locked out, I think.
Chair, there was just a collective shock horror expression on everyone's face. They're like, no.
It's possible one of us is currently updating, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out for the rest of the evening. Okay, thank you very much. Amanda, can you take us to the vote on that one then, please?
Certainly. So Cabinet, if you could use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic blue hands if you're abstaining. So that's unanimous in support, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you again, Nick, and all the finance team for all the work you've done on this. Exactly as Jack has said, this has been a hell of a challenging time, and you've kept this on the straight and narrow all year. So well done. Thank you. So moving on now to agenda item 18, which is the adoption of East Devon events strategy and events policy. So it says here I've got two speakers. We've got a report from Nick Christo, Street Scene Operations Manager, and Angela Gordon-Lennox, our events officer. So I'm not sure which of you wants to go first, or
thank you, Chair. I'll introduce.
I can see Angela. Thanks, Nick. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'll just briefly introduce the report that you have in front of you, which accompanies the appendices, our events policy and strategy. To set the scene, we've been working, as outlined in the report, for the last 5 years, hosting a variety of different events, large and small, across East Devon, which have grown significantly over the years and has been highlighted in our service plan annually. Almost a year ago, we recruited a dedicated events officer, Angela Gordon-Lennox, who is also on the call tonight, to assist us with the increased demand and ensure that we continue to provide a coordinated and clear approach to delivering events on East Devon land. The recommendation for the adoption of the strategy and policy is to formalise our process and approach so that everyone is clear with how we go about granting permissions, to ensure that events on East Devon land are beneficial to the community, promotes health and well-being, assist with economic recovery by attracting visitors, and its links to our tourism and culture aspirations. It will also ensure that we continue to deliver the right sort of events that can add to the attraction of East Devon and complement local businesses. So the events policy outlines how the events team will decide and approve applications, allowing for safe, legal and successful events, whilst providing excellent customer service. And in any instance, emails will be sent to acknowledge to stakeholders to inform them of events taking place, and where appropriate, gather feedback for any concerns that stakeholders might have. I will also add, Chair, that the events organisers expect us to operate in a way we are proposing and are quite confused that we actively consult, as in many other areas, this process doesn't actually exist. I feel that our approach as set out in the report provides a balanced way of dealing with event applications as and when they come through. The event strategy outlines how we will market and promote our event spaces. But I just wanted to stress, just to rest assured that myself and the events team, we're passionate with a purpose to continue to enhance our spaces with events that actually add something to the areas for the benefit of local communities, which do not exclude other people. As mentioned earlier, Angela is also on the call and will be happy to pass to her any specific questions in the first instance, Chair, that may arise, and I'll also offer support if needed.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that, Nick. So I won't throw to Andrew immediately. I'll have her there reactive if needs be. Councillor Denise Bickley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nick. I welcome this. I hope that it will obviously avoid the need for the huge backpedaling we've had to do about the weddings, for example, which was a complete surprise to everyone at Sidmouth Town Council. Although we knew that there were some possibilities of having weddings there, I think the way it was presented was not great. So hopefully this policy will amend that, and hopefully we'll get some consultation right at the point where ideas are mooted, and we can discuss it fully and have public coordination of ideas as well, in order to then shape the event and help give local knowledge to it. So there are certain areas in Sidmouth, for example, Connaught Gardens, which we just don't want any old event to come up in. So a very clear policy is definitely needed. It's very difficult when people come to visit a town because of an asset like Connaught Gardens to then close it. So, that has to be done very carefully and with due concern for everybody around. So hopefully this policy will address that. Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Bickley. Can I come to Councillor Brewster Sarum, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think this is a very welcome action to provide clear policy. And I note these from the report, the successful events that have taken place in Exmouth, such as the Big Wheel. I know that was very popular. However, I am concerned that charities and other such organisations don't suffer, since after COVID, as I'm sure you are aware, and other members are, charities will need to urgently fundraise to restore their finances at a most cost-effective manner. So I hope that our policy will be able to give them, the charities and other such organisations, as listed in para 9 of the report, the appropriate guidance so that we will strike the right balance between being a commercially responsible and a successful organisation, as we pride ourselves on being, and at the same time a giver of great things to the public that need them. So I leave it there. Thank you, and thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much for that point, Councillor Brewster Sarum, which I'm sure is noted well. Councillor Steve Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome the report, and I also endorse what Councillor Brewster Sarum had to say about charities. But just a question from anybody putting in an application for the use of land. What is the turnaround for the applicant to know whether they will get the land? Because obviously, once they've got that, they then have to go through, or might have to go through, the TENS procedure. So I just wondered, what is the anticipated turnaround of letting applicants know that they will or not have the use of East End land? Thank you.
Who wants to take that one, Nick or Angela?
I'll take that if I may.
Thank you, Angela.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor Gazzard. So we've been working really hard on the turnaround times. I think our event organisers expect a fast turnaround, and part of this policy is to help us achieve that. We've obviously got a very big backlog because of COVID that we're working through at the moment, but we're looking towards a sort of 1 to 2 week turnaround going forwards if we can.
Thank you very much, Angela. And I'm intrigued that while your husband still seems to be in San Francisco, you live in a rather agreeable house in the backdrop. So, right. Okay, moving to, who have we got? Have we got anybody outside? Sorry, I'm just double checking. No, so it's into Cabinet now. Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Thank you. I was really interested in reading the section 11 on page 83, which was about the events income has increased and what it was hopeful to be. Obviously music to my ears from a financial point of view for the council. It did remind me, and I apologise if this is not quite the correct channel to ask this through, but it reminded me that when I asked a couple of officers about what we could do to increase income, that Andrew Hancock mentioned to me about the possibility that was looked at previously about the purchase of a big screen, a mobile big screen that could be moved around different areas of the district for people to hire, which could be, although there's a capital outlay at the start, the rental income could prove very beneficial. I'm just wondering if there's if that could be considered again, and perhaps in a future report to be brought back to Cabinet, that could be included, as to see what that could look like.
Thank you, Councillor Rowan. We'll note that idea, I think. That's very helpful. Thank you. Can we come to Councillor John Loudon, please?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I welcome the report and I support its thrust. However, There's always a however, and this is a minor point, and it follows up what Councillor Bickley was talking about the brouhaha that we had here in Sidmouth. Frankly, it was overblown, I think, by people over what they thought were proposals for Connaught Gardens. Personally, I put my head on the chopping block here. I saw no problem with it. That said, one of the things we need to do is clearly to balance the extent and the scale of the events that we propose to allow to take place on public land with the access that residents and visitors expect to have to it. So it's about the balance, isn't it? And that leads me then to the issue of communication. And I welcome what I heard, I'm sure, Nick say earlier on about working with stakeholders. And for me, one of the key stakeholders has got to be the town and parish councils. And again, Councillor Bickley alluded to that. So I'm afraid a bit of nerdiness here. So if I go into Appendix A under the communicate and collaborate, which I've got at page 7, because I'm not going through the long agenda set of papers. And it talks there about externally about meeting groups and businesses. And I wonder whether we should be explicit rather than just implicit that we're talking about the towns and parish councils there, because that's where I would see that needing to be said. Because equally, if you turn to Appendix B and at page 3, under event delivery aims, we do talk there at numbers 2 and 3 about businesses and towns and parish councils. So I just wonder whether it's necessary for us to meld the two together so it is absolutely clear that the towns and parishes are in our sights when it comes to collaboration. I'm not using the word consultation, I'm using the word collaboration. Thank you, Chair. And if it's necessary, I'm very happy to move recommendation of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. I'm sure your comments on that are noted. I think the Connaught Gardens thing was an interesting thing. It was a bit of a brouhaha, but I think we managed to resolve that very quickly by making sure we did go back to the town council and square it off with them, and that was a good learning opportunity, I think. And I endorse what you said that let's try and do that all the time and have town and parishes as always at least the second, but perhaps even the first port of call. So Councillor Nick Hookway, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank our officers for preparing this report. I think this policy is extremely important. It will be an open and transparent way for anyone who's interested in running an event, either whether they are based within the district or based outside the district, to know exactly what's on offer in East Devon. I think we must be consistent, and I think the policy allows us to do that. There are many, many positive aspects in this policy. It will benefit income for businesses, it will benefit income for the council, it will allow people to see exactly what we have on offer. And I think one of the great shames for us at the present time is that people don't really appreciate what we have on offer. And I think this events policy will help to do that. I would also like to pay great thanks to the events team who've already been working extremely hard, and that's very noticeable since I became the portfolio holder recently, and they have generated already a significant number of booked events. I thank them for their hard work. I thank Councillor Loudon for proposing the recommendation, and I'd like to second that, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hookway. Councillor Marianne Rickson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I would like to echo what was said by Denise and John about Connaught Gardens. I think there was quite a furore about this, but as far as I understand it, the plan is not to shut the whole garden to the public. It's just to section off a small part of it. Am I correct in this? In terms of the strategy document, I noticed the finances mentioned and the number of events for 18-19 and 19-20, and that would give a figure of about £250 per event on average. There's also mention about an automated booking system. Is this something that we would buy off the peg, or is that something that would have to be developed, and how much is this going to cost? In terms of the policy, I just wondered how the charges were arrived at, bearing in mind that we seem to be getting quite a modest sum from the events themselves, and is this actually going to be sufficient to cover officer time, etc.? And finally, just as an aside, there used to be something called garden games, which were taken around from one venue to another. Are these still available? Okay, thank you.
Right, well, that's a fine array of questions there from Councillor Rickson. I'm going to give everybody some thinking time there, because I can see Henry, Mr. Gordon-Lennox, you've got your hand up at the moment.
Thank you, Chair. It was only just to say, in light of what Councillor Loudon had commented on about it might be worth including a delegation to the strategic lead in consultation with the portfolio holder to make minor amendments to the policy when you come to make a decision.
Excellent. Thank you, Henry. That's a very good idea. Thank you. So, anybody? Andrew Hancock's looking keen. I don't know who's looking keen to pick up some of Marianne's questions.
I was wondering, Chair, if Angela would come in on most of those, but I'll just quickly cover off the booking system, if I may. Strata already have a project on their books for us to develop a firm step-backed booking system front end. It's a project in plan. It should start sometime later this year, all things being well. So that will be covered by the normal strata costs rather than there being additional software costs from a third party.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Angela, please.
Oh. Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid my shorthand's not what it used to be, so I've only jotted down a couple of those questions.
That'll do.
On the weddings, we've been working with Sidmouth Town Council and with the Chamber of Commerce to come up with a compromise on what the original idea was. And yes, indeed, we will be just allowing a small section of the bandstand gardens to be roped off for a ceremony only. So hopefully everyone will be happy with that, but we will be presenting at the Sidmouth Town Council meeting in April, so we'll be able to get further views on that at that point. Another bit on the automated booking system is that we managed to take a sort of quite a basic online booking system that Strata had produced for another of our councils, local councils, and we're using that now. So our customers, as they are paying us money, can book or reserve online, but it's quite a basic system at the moment. And then finally, on the charges, we have benchmarked across the UK. We belong to an organisation called the Local Association of Event Organisers. So that's made up of, I don't know, 150, 200 event organisers from councils across the UK. And we've benchmarked our charges against them. I think all councils subsidise compared to a commercial operation. And then those charges went through our normal portfolio holder report process, and so the new charges have been adopted from the beginning of April. We are of course very open to talking to members about next year's prices and re-benchmarking or whatever's required. That's all I got, I'm afraid.
I reckon that was a lot. Thank you, Angela, very much. Councillor Rickson, did Angela capture just about everything there, I think, didn't she?
I believe so, except my aside about what happened to the garden games. Do we still have them?
I can come in on that, Chair. Yes, we do, Councillor Rickson. We do have them, the large Connect 4, the big chess games. They do prove very popular for obvious reasons. We didn't put them out during last summer, but please rest assured that they'll be out again in our prominent parks, and they're a nice established part of the parks that people really like to use, and we often get positive comments when they're out and about. So yes, we are very much looking forward to people being able to use them in a safe way again.
Thank you very much. This is just such fun, isn't it, this item? Councillor Jeff Young, please.
Thank you, Chair. As portfolio holder responsible for this team last year, I'd like to say a big thank you to them. They did a fantastic job when you consider that we're in an emergency, coming out of it, going back into it, going out of it, changing rules. It was like a jack in a box. What you basically see from the events team, it's a bit like an iceberg. You only see a minute particle. I've been on the inside of it, and the amount of work that I've had to do to get these events going has been tremendous. And now I'm really pleased that Nick Hookway is taking over a lot of the responsibility for this, and he's inheriting a really good team. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Lovely bit of baton passing there, Councillor Young. Thank you very much. And wholly endorse all your comments. So, Cabinet, we have one recommendation, which is that we adopt the events strategy in Appendix A and the events policy in Appendix B for the reasons set out in the report. So we've got well, actually, we had a proposer. It was a long time ago. Yes.
Chair, sorry to interrupt, but did the monitoring officer not make a suggestion that we needed to also include a delegate set of delegated powers to make any minor amendments to this report?
Yes. How would we, Henry, have you got a suggested wording for that? Or is it?
The recommendation just runs on to say, with delegated authority to the strategic lead, housing, health and environment, to make minor amendments to the policy in consultation with the portfolio holder for culture, tourism, leisure and sport.
Right, fantastic. You're good at this. I'm sorry, thank you very much. So remind me, who was the original proposer of this? Can anybody remember?
C'est moi.
None of. Okay, so Councillor Loudon, you're happy to accept that amendment to the printed recommendation?
Absolutely, Chair.
Okay, and was there a seconder for Councillor Loudon? Councillor Hook? Thank you very much. Right, Angela, can we go to the vote, please? Thank you.
So, Cabinet, if you could use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. And for those watching online, the vote is underway. And that's unanimous in support, Chair.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much, all our officers, for that report and all the interesting extra information we were able to glean from you this evening. Thank you. Right, back down to ground now. Andrew Hancock, I'm afraid, agenda item 19, a request for additional budget for enhanced COVID secure public toilet cleaning until restrictions lift. Andrew, do you want to say a bit about this?
Yes, Chair, I'll keep it as brief as I can. Perhaps a little less fun than the last item, I'm afraid. So if you cast your minds back to last June, we brought a report forwards about the need for a £76,000 additional budget for enhanced COVID secure cleaning of our public toilet stock, which was related to government guidance due to the pandemic and boiled down to 4 cleans a day with enhanced misting, etc., hand sanitisers on the outside of the blocks. And that was all the COVID secure standard. When we set our 21-22 budget, we perhaps naively hoped that we'd be out of restrictions by now. And so we didn't add additional budget in for the enhanced cleaning and the extra staffing as a result. But as you're no doubt aware, government guidance for enhanced cleaning remains, and we believe that this will be in place till at least the summer. Some sources of guidance, such as the pavement licence approach, have suggested that some sort of guidance or restrictions might be in place until March next year. So this report seeks additional funding for staffing to continue carrying out the enhanced cleaning regime that you've seen this previous year across the toilet sites that are open. And that's 19 in total, 14 of which are ours. The additional budget that we're seeking is £71,000, just over £19,000 for enhanced cleaning up until the 21st of June, and then and that's reduced by the balance remaining from the 76,000 we had last year, and then a £51,000 contingency to cover summer until December should that be needed. As I said, that continues to afford us the current 19 sites which are open. 16 are ours and 3 are funded by town councils or owned by them and cleaned by us. The opening hours will be 8 AM to 8 PM in line with last year, and 7 PM when we hit the winter months, but we will keep this under review. We're a little concerned about the expected summer influx and that 8 PM may not be late enough. And if that does turn out to be the case, then we'll try and cover this within the budget by opening some sites later until 10 PM, which is our usual summer opening time, and closing others earlier. But we need to be mindful of the 3-hour window, the gap between cleans, to keep the hygiene standards as they need to be. Obviously, any later opening outside of that will increase costs. Sorry if I'm causing yawns. We still don't believe that additional sites are affordable at this time, as we outlined it in the June report, because each additional site would require more staff, numbers depending on location, and a cost between 7 and 15k at a time. And the forthcoming public toilet review, which we're hoping to bring to a very soon future cabinet, is on the forward plan for May, will address the longer term future and issues of the remaining stock, which is currently closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and on behalf of whoever the guilty yawner was, apologies. We were all interested in that. I've paid, I'm trying to walk a bit at the moment, so I've paid many visits to these incredibly clean loos. So thank you to the team for that. Looking at the financial implications, it's sort of still, isn't it, this rather, we've got this unallocated budget of 1.3 and there are things, you know, but the money seems to be available, you know, one way or the other. Yeah, so Simon's nodding, so that's helpful. Right, so can I please ask for anybody who would like to speak on that from outside Cabinet? Councillor Bruce DeSarum, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think, firstly, it's good to see that compliments have been received to the team. That it's always lovely to see that, particularly for this sort of task. And I think it ties in nicely with the previous item that we talked about, events. As we touched on just now, we are expecting a summer influx. So I think enhanced cleaning is a very positive thing to happen. And I think our mantra should be that we provide safe, hygienic facilities throughout the district. And I think that's something that this influx of money will create. So I think that, yes, it is a cost. However, if we are to maintain these facilities properly, then there isn't really any other way around it, in effect. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor DeSarum. Councillor Denise Bickley, please.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I'm just going to be annoying, really, and just raise Port Royal at Sidmouth as not being open again. I think with the hope that we're going to have an influx of visitors, I think the beach toilets are really important to be open, and not to have any open at all at that end of the beach in Sidmouth is frustrating. I wonder if we could look at it and just think of having one cubicle open in each male and female toilet, because yes, they may not be COVID, might not be possible to have the whole thing cleaned, but I would have thought to just keep it very simple and have one in each gender would be useful. I think we just need something at that end of the beach, please. I just ask everyone to just consider that. And I wonder if it even could say on it that this one is not COVID cleaned. It is just a basic facility, but you know, I guess that wouldn't tick all the boxes. But to have nothing at all is not ideal. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bickley. I'll leave that between you and Mr. Hancock to backwards and forwards as time goes by. Thank you very much. Right, so nobody. Oh, Councillor Joe Wibley, please, our upstanding member for Exmouth Town.
Thank you very much for the marvellous introduction. Can I just confirm that there will be no request to town councils for further funding? Because I know last time a lot of them, well, Exmouth in particular, was asked to subsidise the opening of one of the toilets. Can I just, for the sake of everybody, really just seek some clarity on what the situation will be with regards to that this year? Cheers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wibley. I think that pertains to Seaton as well. I'm not sure any other towns who put money in. I don't know if Axminster did in the end, but Andrew, can we come back to you for that one?
Yes, absolutely. We are still talking to town councils about contributions. Nick Christo has already contacted Exmouth Town Council, who have responded positively, but we're yet to find out the outcome. And as you might recall from last time, that's for the funding of the Exmouth bus station toilets. Sidmouth fund it differently. They provide their own facilities at the Arches, which we clean for them. So that's their method of funding additional toilets. And Seaton is through a shared staffing arrangement whereby Seaton Town Council fund half of a post, which we use around the town in addition to helping open the Harbour Road toilets.
Thanks, Andrew, for that answer. Right, so we are into Cabinet now. Councillor Sarah Jackson, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is it's a two-part question, really, and I guess probably most appropriate for Andrew and Simon, possibly Andy would. It was the first part of the question is whether or not we'd explored any grant funding that might be available in order to help with taking the pressure off of those costs. But that sort of led me on to a thought process around the existing government grants. I know that there are a number of different community-based buildings that are held by various entities, village halls, possibly toilets, I'm not sure, that have been able to capitalise on the various different grants, and I'm thinking perhaps LRSG or ARG. And I just wondered whether there was any scope whatsoever for East Devon even to apply for those to help in so much as this is helping facilitate the opening up of and the restarting of economies within the area, because there's a lot of people that won't visit a town if they don't have those facilities in place. So it's a bit of a, yeah, I'm not sure how much traction that would get, but I just wondered if there was any clarification on that.
Andrew, do you want to pick up on any of those?
I can certainly, Chair, and maybe Andy or Simon will come in, but first time round with the Reopening High Street Safely Fund, funding for public toilets was explicitly excluded from bids that could be made, so we weren't able to pull on any of that funding. I know from discussions with Andy that the Welcome Back Fund is a bit broader. I've yet to get into the detail to find out whether public toilets could be funded. I don't know if Andy's got any detail on that.
Andy, are the government leading a vast recovery from the pandemic by throwing us some cash to clean the loos around here that you're aware of?
I'd have to check the detail of the Welcome Back Fund, Chair. I would say though, Simon sent to me earlier the most up-to-date version of the question and answers produced by BEIS in relation to the additional restrictions grant. And just looking at that, it says very clearly that local authorities would not use ARG for the following, which is one of the bullet points, funding whereby the local authority is the direct recipient. So that does rule us out in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, right, moving on, I think, to the next speaker from within Cabinet, Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Yeah. Thanks for the clarification, Andy, because that was certainly my understanding about the that councils couldn't apply for that money themselves. The point I was going to make was picking up on the point that Councillor Wibley was making. I'm pleased to hear that we are in discussions with town and parish councils to see what assistance they can also provide on this, in line with what's happening with in Exmouth and Seaton in the past. So that's good to hear. I hope that produces some results. I'd also like to push the fact that, and I'm going to be a little bit parochial to use it as an example, but in Seaton, there is a cafe at Seaton Hole, and their building, which they lease from East Devon District Council, is adjacent to a public toilet, which has remained closed. But obviously to help that business, which is quite a distance away from any other public toilets, but does attract a large number of visitors, that is obviously going to be increasing over this summer period, hopefully. I'd like to think there is a solution to where the people that are leasing that cafe can come to an arrangement with East Devon where those public toilets could also be reopened, perhaps with them taking on the responsibility. So I believe that negotiations are taking place like that, and I hope they are going to come to fruition very soon, because there could well be other examples across the district where that may also apply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland, very much for that, which I'm sure was noted by Andrew and his team. Just to give some comfort, given what this subject is, after this item, I think we should probably take the 5-minute comfort break. Yeah, lots of enthusiastic nodding there. And so, Councillor Jeff Young, please. I keep it short, Jeff.
I would keep it very short. I believe this year is the first year that we won't have to pay business rates on toilets. I think Simon can confirm that. But I'm afraid that we've got to spend a penny or two to keep COVID safe. So I would like to recommend the proposal, and I hope that the Cabinet can support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Young. Councillor, yes, Joe Wibley's clapping, not wanting to speak. Councillor Megan Armstrong, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll try and be quick. It's just a bit of history, really. Andrew, do you remember last year or whatever it was, we had a discussion about the Mayor toilets versus the Fair Park toilets? And I seem to remember that Mayor toilets was going to be given some kind of priority, but I may have got that wrong. And then also the railway station ones, I think you said that they weren't suitable for being COVID secure. So could you just clarify all of that for me, please, if you're able to? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. I shall try to. So the railway or bus station toilets, indeed, we did categorise them as not COVID secure or not COVID compliant. But we looked at that through our risk assessment. We've put signage in place and access mirrors in place and floor markings such that we felt that it was acceptable to open them. Those were the ones that Exmouth Town Council wanted to fund to be open.
Yeah.
The Mayor, as you know, we talked about that last year. And that was, as I outlined in the introduction to the report, it would require additional funding to open the Mayor. And I'm just looking at my water usage of our public toilets, which will be in my forthcoming public toilet review report. It's really useful to help look at the level of use at each site. And the Mayor toilets is right down the bottom, not right at the bottom, sorry, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th up from the bottom. And it's beneath the usage of Fair Park by quite some way. Now, I know it's only a 6-month opening, seasonal opening, but I think I stand by our sort of categorisation of that toilet, I'm afraid.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, can I just come back on that? Yes, because
Absolutely,
they are only open, that's one of the issues for me, because the Mayor is used all year round by all sorts of people, but they're only open during the summer. So I've never understood that, actually. So if you need a toilet in the winter, you've had it, basically. You're walking the dog on the Mayor. I've been in that position several times.
Right. Thank you, Megan.
So it's just, it's something, perhaps I can discuss that with you separately, Andrew. I don't want to take up the meeting time now, but I'm just a bit concerned about that because it is, that area is used a lot. Okay, thank you anyway.
I'm sure I've seen Megan walking very fast with her dog round there.
Yeah, you will have, yeah.
This explains it. Okay, thank you, Councillor Armstrong and Andrew. Right, we have a recommendation, Cabinet, that we recommend to Council, because it's money, the approval of 71,162 of additional budget. This includes 19,854 for enhanced public toilet cleaning the 1st of 21st of June this year, and a further 58 contingency budget to potentially extend that to 21st of June. From 21st June 2021 to the 31st of December 2021, if required due to a continuation of government restrictions or advice. Can we now take a vote on that, please, Amanda?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. And that's a unanimous vote in support, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, everybody. So it's now just coming up to 8. Can we gather again at 8:05, please? Thank you very much. Thanks to DS for helping us to do that. Thank you.
You muttering to yourself, Councillor Arnott?
I've just gone up 2 flights of stairs. I can hardly breathe. No, like David Cameron. Do you remember that when he muttered on his way out? Right.
Chair.
Yes.
Can I just offer an apology for my inappropriate behaviour just now to you and to Andrew? It's been a long day and I forgot to mute my microphone, so my sincere apologies. I did not wish to cast aspersions upon anybody. Sorry.
I'm sure those are accepted. Thank you for coming forward like that, Councillor Hookway. And I'm sure you had your hand over your mouth when you were doing it anyway.
Probably
Nice
not. Never mind.
Are we, Amanda, are we back broadcasting?
Yeah, we've been broadcasting all the time, Chair.
Excellent. Okay, good. Right. In which case, let's move on, please, to agenda item 20, the capital replacement programme for grounds and cleansing plant machinery. And again, we've got a report from the service lead street scene, Andrew Hancock. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and be even quicker this time and more upbeat to try and take people with us. So what you have before you here is a request for a capital budget for street scene machinery replacement. This is a regular annual occurrence with all of our equipment having a write-down lifespan and replacement period forecast in a detailed spreadsheet. This year's request is unusual for two reasons. Firstly, it's a larger sum than is the normal average, owing to several mechanical road sweepers, which is our most expensive bit of kit, at over 100 grand each on average. And they're coming up for renewal during the same budget period. But nonetheless, all these machines are essential to continuing our efficient undertaking of our statutory responsibilities. The second reason is that such capital requests would normally be submitted as part of the budget setting process and going through ONS in January, February. This has not been possible this year due to a number of factors as outlined in the report. In summary, high workloads and other priorities related to the pandemic, the need to update our machinery and asset register, the inability to demo new machines in preparation for budget submission, and all these factors combining, which made it impossible for us to meet the tight timescale of the budget setting. Despite not being able to physically demo any new machines, we have spoken to a number of manufacturers in detail about electric alternatives to our mechanical sweepers. The technology is not quite proven yet, so we do want to demo before we put them on fleet. And they are also currently around 2.5 to 3 times more expensive than an ICE equivalent, a combustion engine equivalent, at about 280k versus 80k for our smaller sweepers. We will now book in some demos for such machines with an intention linked to our climate change action plan of bringing them on fleet in 2026, which is the next replacement date. So in conclusion, this regular unexpected expense has come forward to you in an abnormal way because of COVID. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. And I note in the financial implications, it says, although this is a significant inclusion in the program, have been other variations that mitigate this increase. But I just ask, he's just taking a sip of coffee. Simon, can I just ask you to just comment on that quickly? We've got the money to cover this, have we?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The capital programme is changes quite significantly through the year in terms of pluses and minuses. If you remember, as part of the capital programme that was approved, there was significant clay schemes approved, particularly around Exmouth. Those schemes we included in the capital programme at their full cost. In the end, 106 funding came in to support a number of those schemes. So that additional income will offset this particular cost, but the capital programme does move quite a bit in year, pluses and minuses.
Brilliant. Thank you, Simon, for that. Very helpful. So can I come to any speakers outside of Cabinet on that, please? If not, just come straight in to Councillor Jeff Young. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to know from Andrew, will it include beard trimmers? Because quite a few councillors and a few officers seem to need beard trimmers. But I would like to go straight to recommending the two recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. from the darkness, I think, Councillor Young, I can't see you, so nobody can. I don't know if your image is there. It's not on my screen, but hair clippers aren't included either, Councillor Young. There we go. Yeah, right. So we have a proposal from Councillor Young. Can I come to Councillor Marianne Rickson next, please?
I'd like to second the proposal, but I'd also just like to make a comment, because in one of the reports I noted the reference to litter and dealing with litter. I just don't understand the sort of people who come to beautiful areas like ours and then leave it looking like a rubbish tip. And from previous experience of lockdowns, it does seem that once the lockdown is lifted, that we can expect a significant increase in the amount of rubbish that's being just left for the magic fairy to take away. Well, in the Sidmouth case, it's plastic warriors who help out. But it really isn't right that people have to clean up after others. They should not be so feckless. Is there really nothing we can do to discourage this sort of behaviour and encourage a more responsible attitude so that they don't leave our lovely district looking like an absolute tip?
Thank you, Councillor Rickson. It's a rhetorical question there. I think they were called litter louts when I was young. They're probably called something else now, but no, absolutely. Well, actually, I think we've probably done a bit of messaging, haven't we, through comms and Facebook and stuff. I think, yeah, no, Andrew. So I think we are messaging on that. Yeah, I can see Nick and Andy nodding there. Thank you. So, can I? I've got a. Did I have a proposer from Councillor Young? I can't remember. Yes. Is anybody prepared to second that? Councillor Rickson, thank you very much. Amanda, can you take us to a vote, please, then on that?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. For those watching online, the vote is underway. And that's unanimous in support of the motion, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amanda. We now come to agenda item 21, which is the Levelling Up Fund. And we have a report on that from our Service Lead for Growth, Development and Prosperity, Andy Wood. Andy, please.
Thank you, Chair. The prospectus for the Levelling Up Fund was published as part of the budget. It's a £4.8 billion fund, providing capital funding, principally aimed at transport, town centre and regeneration and cultural investments. Important to say that each district has been placed into one of three priority categories. We are in priority, the third priority, the lowest tier, essentially. That's part of a set methodology nationally, which takes into account various criteria. I would say as part of a kind of wider assessment, we have bid into various different grant schemes over the years, and we tend to run a fairly informal kind of risk and reward equation. On this one, my immediate reaction would be that the risk of an unsuccessful, or investing lots of time into an unsuccessful application, would probably outweigh the scope of the reward, even bearing in mind the potential scale of that. Bids can, or there can be up to £20 million awards. But there are a number of different factors that sit around this that are listed in the report that might give us a way forward, including the ability for joint applications, potentially in conjunction with Mid Devon, for example. A set of next steps are set out in paragraph 5.6 of the report. And finally, just to say that critical within that will be engaging with our MPs and members of Parliament and wider stakeholders as well. And sorry, finally, just to say that the subsequent to the report being published, further guidance was forthcoming, published last Friday, including a 29-page application form, which, if we choose to proceed for the first round, there will be further rounds, needs to be completed by the 18th of June. So you'll notice within the recommendation, given there are various references to Green Book and Magenta Book, which I've not even come across before, compliance, then there will be a significant amount of technical work that will need to be commissioned to support any bid. And there is a recommendation for a budget of £100,000 to be identified from the business rate pilot reserve to support that work, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Can I just start with some clarification with regard to the MPs? As you know, we've fixed an appointment. I think it's something like April the 11th for a few of us and you and other officers to meet with Mr. Parish and Mr. Jupp. The thing I don't quite understand is you effectively need, don't you, an MP to be advocating a project for you. But how is this going to work in an area like East Devon, where we have 3 MPs, but we've got 2 main ones, and Neil Parish's chunk is quite substantial, and covers major communities like Seaton and Axminster. How is that going to be looked at by government in the context of the Levelling Up Fund procedure?
I think my response to that would be, if there isn't endorsement for a specific bid, it's very unlikely to be successful, particularly if it's from a third tier kind of area in the first place. I think the way around that, as kind of intimated in, for example, the letter from Neil Parish, is for a joint bid around a potential town deal type approach that's referenced there, which would potentially join up, from our case, Seaton and Axminster, for example, maybe into Mid Devon with the likes of Tiverton and Clumpton, for example. Obviously, that would require some quite careful choreography with our neighbours moving forward. The other is in relation to Exmouth, which obviously there has been wider statements around that, and it would require the support of our MP there, Simon Jupp, to really put that forward as first amongst equals in relation to any other bid, I think, to stand a chance of being successful.
Okay, thanks, Andy. That's really helpful. Thank you very much. Can I then come to speakers from outside of Cabinet? Councillor Joe Wibley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just as was referred to there by Andy Wood, I am well aware we're in Purda. What I would say is, given the recent history of such sort of town centre funding bids, it's a good job we're in Purda. And also makes this meeting shorter because I can't say what I'd really like to say right now. Okay, it is disappointing we're in tier 3, although it is, it's done on a set of criteria that I guess they're fair across the country. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wibley. I mean, I note, if it's of any interest to you, that I'm asked to write this miserable weekly column for the Herald Group newspapers, and my column this week is all about Purda, the principles of Purda, the history of Purda, even if you're interested in that. And just across the page was a Purda breaking column from another local political figure, basically boasting that the money was there for Exmouth. So, but anyway, we'll forgive him that for this week. So can we come to Councillor Brewster Sarum, please?
Thank you, Chair. Mindful of the fact that we are in Purda, I too, as Councillor Wibley said, it is very distressing to see that we are in the third tier, but clearly Andy Wood has outlined very succinctly that the joint bids could be successful, and I think that really we need to look at para 5.5, which hopefully we will all acknowledge, and we will work closely with the MP for East Devon to see how we can get a successful outcome. As we're all Exmouth councillors, irrespective of the parties that we represent, we all have a duty to get the best results for our members, our constituents. And I think that we are, by endorsing this recommendation tonight, the council is taking very positive steps. And I think that even when we're in Purda, we're going to do a lot of things, because, I mean, we know our town centres have been hit hard by the pandemic. In Exmouth, for example, 2 banks have announced that they'll be soon shut for good. And these are extremely distressing times that we live in. So I welcome this report by Andy Wood. It's another great example of our extremely efficient and dedicated officers producing such wonderful works. Thank you ever so much, Chair. And of course, thank you to Councillor Wibley for his excellent contribution.
Thank you for absolutely Purda compliant speech, Councillor Sarum, as expected. Thank you very much. Can I come now to Councillor Andrew Moulding? Councillor Moulding, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it's an interesting project, this, isn't it? And as has been mentioned, it's disappointing that we're in the third tier. But the report from Andy Wood does point out that looks like MPs can support two projects in, for instance, a district authority like ours, where there are more than one MP. And so therefore, and I know that Exmouth are very keen to promote their town centre, and I would very much support that. But at the same time, the report suggests that local infrastructure for bids up to or between 20 million and 50 million for transport projects only are very much acceptable. And there is a ready-made scheme for Axminster, as members will very well know, for the relief road for Axminster. And that relief road, all the work has been done to build up that scheme. And indeed, it is still included in our local plan. And indeed, also, the work that's been done towards that would stand us in good stead, because that work involved what was then called the Housing Infrastructure Fund. Now, that didn't seem to materialise, because rather than being a grant, it appeared to be a loan. And this is another opportunity where I feel that East Devon District Council can take a lead, support the very much needed relief road for Axminster, which would invigorate the town centre, keep traffic out of the town, which is what local people have been very much discussing at recent meetings. And so I feel that that it would be useful to look at these two schemes, one for Exmouth for the town centre improvements, and one for Axminster for the transport project, which involves the North-South Relief Road. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Moulding. And it's interesting, isn't it? I suppose it comes down to what regeneration is. I mean, it tells us here that it'll prioritise investment in regeneration and growth in places of need. And then, as you rightly say, in 1.2, there's stuff for bids above 20 and below 50 for transport projects only. I suppose it comes down to whether the people in the area want to see regeneration led by regeneration of business or by building a road. But that's absolutely for discussion. Thank you for that point. Councillor Steve Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. What others have said, I was going to say I fully concur with their comments, and I am really interested in what Councillor Moulding had to say. I mean, I would think that would be an excellent idea to do Exmouth and Axminster, and I'm sure that when you meet with our bona fide MPs, you'll be rattling the gates for us, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. Councillor Paul, my middle name's Perda Miller, please. Councillor Miller, please.
I've read the Perda guidance, Chair, and I will
okay.
with all of it. And I did read your column as well, which was thoroughly enjoyable. I wanted to pick up on something Councillor de Saram said about Exmouth. I wrote to the MP on the 11th of January calling for a meeting between him and Exmouth councillors across party. And I haven't received a response. So through you, Chair, I'd suggest that obviously you've got a meeting. It would be good if Councillor de Saram could get in touch with the MP as well. He probably is more likely to get an answer. So thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Miller, very much for that. So we're now coming into Cabinet, please. Councillor Marianne Rickson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to refer to item 2.1, and I'd like to propose a better use of existing infrastructure rather than building even more. It mentions transport investment and reducing carbon emissions, etc. Well, as we all know, over recent years, many bus routes have been cut. And in fact, what we need instead of more loss of services is for services to be reinstated what rural areas need is frequent, affordable bus travel. And so I would hope that we'll be able to do something on a joint basis as proposed in 5.4, where it mentions a joint bid, including the county council in its role as the transport authority. We could do that with our usual partners like Mid Devon, Tinbridge and East Devon plus Devon County, hopefully. Why not? Because this is something we need to do if we're going to reduce carbon emissions.
That's thank you, Councillor Ricks. I'm sure Andy Wood will have noted that as well. That's another interesting idea, isn't it? Thank you for that. Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Thank you. I welcome this report, and one of the things that has puzzled me, which has already been touched on by other members, is the fact that this district is in Tier 3. I did ask for details about the criteria that was used, so I do have a good understanding now about how different areas were placed in the 3 different categories. But when I've looked at other areas that are in Tier 3 and my personal knowledge of those areas, when I think there is an area such as Richmond in southwest London, for example, anybody that knows that area, to think that that equates with this particular area in terms of economic deprivation, etc., just strikes me as slightly flawed somewhere. But however, we are faced with the fact that we are in Tier 3 and we've got to make the best of it in making any bids. So I take on board what's been said about Exmouth and Axminster. I think it's a pity in some respects about what the different constituencies are called, because to call one of them East Devon implies that we've got one MP that covers our whole area, whereas, as we know, a large chunk of it is covered by the MP that represents Honiton and Tiverton, in which Seaton falls. So I'm really pleased to see that mention has been made of Seaton in terms of its seafront enhancement scheme, which has had a long and very checkered history with trying to get anything done, which stems back easily 10 years ago now, from the time when Seaton was registered as a town that needed regeneration. Certain things did take place to regenerate the area, but one of the glaring omissions was the fact that the seafront enhancement scheme has never got off the ground and has fallen firmly in the lap of Seaton Town Council up until now, who have, for one reason or another, struggled to deliver that without support from other agencies. So I'm really pleased to see that Seaton is being mentioned in this report, and I'd like to see, obviously, that considered when we look at what joint bids can be put forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland, very much. Councillor John Loudon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Like everybody else, I'm incredibly disappointed we find ourselves in Tier 3. But then when I looked at who was in Tier 1, I perhaps wasn't surprised. And I very much agree with both Councillor de Sarum and Councillor Moulding when they expressed their disappointment that we're in Tier 3. And I sat listening to what they said, and I thought about it, and it came to me, I have an absolute cast iron recommendation here that we add on as number 4 that will get us out of Tier 3. And it is simply this, Chair, that we recommend to Council that we rebrand the district as East Devon, a red wall district. And there we go, we'll get the money. And I tell you what, Councillor Moulding, you'll get your Axminster to Exmouth.
Councillor Loudon, you're getting into a bit of Purdah country here, I think.
I'm sorry, Chair. I was trying to bring some humour. I didn't mean to preach Purdah.
I've interrupted you too late, but your point has been made. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you very much. Just looking to see who else we've got. Councillor Paul Hayward, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think a couple of the key points are in the report 4.1. So where it says, accordingly, local authorities can submit one bid for every MP whose constituency lies wholly within their boundary. So of course, we are unfortunate, and I'll need to take some guidance on this, but obviously Mr. Parish's constituency goes into Mid Devon. Mr. Stride's constituency certainly is in Mid Devon, and I believe, and I'll stand to be corrected, that Mr. Jupp's goes into Exeter slightly, so the wholly part doesn't apply to any of our MPs. So where then obviously an MP's constituency crosses multiple local authority, the prospectus makes it clear that one local authority should take responsibility as the lead bidder. Now that's very positive, but of course I can't see Mid Devon wishing, to support, and I might be wrong, we haven't talked to Mid Devon, and I'm looking forward to that meeting on the 14th with the MPs, immensely looking forward to that, that Mid Devon would want to support a road for Axminster, which, is almost in Dorset anyway. But then we come back to the town funds, and that's where it becomes very, very interesting and very positive, because yes, there could be a potential scheme for, as Andy refers to, Axminster and Seaton. Now, of course, you could argue that a road which diverts traffic outside of Axminster may benefit Seaton. It's direct infrastructure for Axminster. But I'm delighted that Councillor Moulding referred to the level of the funding, 20 million to 50 million. So one could further conjecture that rather than a road costed simply because it was convenient, you actually cost a road in the right place. And therefore it goes where it needs to go because it has the proper funding that isn't reliant on funding from infrastructure and house building. But these are wonderful discussions to be able to have, the luxury to be able to talk about infrastructure that is actually needed and can be funded properly and funded logically, not funded because of a subsequent or previous decision. That's the very interesting part. So I'm looking forward to having these discussions. It's very positive for our district. I, like everyone else, dismayed we're in tier 3. I was looking to see whether Newark was in tier 3. I don't think it is. I know Newark very well. But we'll see how we get on. And certainly I look forward to talking to Mr. Jupp, Mr. Stride and Mr. Parish immensely. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward, very much. Andy, can I just come back and just, with no spirit of levity, how are we going to spend the 100 grand on the consultants? I mean, what type of, what type of consultation will we be seeking?
So it really relates to the application form, Chair, which mentioned very briefly is quite involved. It's a good, nearly 30 pages. It requires certain levels of evidence to be Green Book compliant in HM Treasury terms, and that requires a level of skill and expertise that I don't think we have in-house, unfortunately. So it was really there to commission those areas of work which are required and, if you like, demanded by the application form and the relative criteria, but we weren't able to resource within in-house, so to speak, in order to maximise our chances of getting towards a successful application, bearing in mind that those tier 1 authorities will be receiving direct capacity funding of, I think, £125,000 each direct from government. So that again puts us at a disadvantage in the overall programme.
Okay, lovely, Andy. That's right. And I remember the Magenta book as well. I'm not going to forget that in a hurry. Thank you very much for that. Right. Okay. So, Councillor Paul Hayward, you're coming back in.
Yes, just very briefly. Thank you, Chair. So, on that point, yeah, I think it's fair to say that if we, as an authority, did not take this opportunity, we'd be quite rightly lambasted. It's been offered to us, even though we're tier 3. We must give it a go. But what we must all remember is this is £100,000 being taken from the Business Rate Relief Fund, which is money that we are using elsewhere for targeted projects. And members of the public who are watching this and watch and read the minutes afterwards will quite rightly think, that's a huge amount of money. I mean, that's, you know, that's £100,000. Now, if it's targeted and spent wisely, then yes, we must. But what I would like is, and that will come from the meeting on the 14th, is reassurances from our 3 MPs that they understand the significance of that amount of money coming from an East Devon District Council budget, which on our part is a punt. It's a gamble to put forward the best possible bid we can, get the best possible evidence. But what I don't want to see is that bid put together with immense amount of effort from our officers, from councillors' input, from other groups, gathering huge amounts of data, and then it not being supported 100%. You know, I think we as a council will demand that our MPs hold the Secretary of State's feet to the fire and demand that those bids are considered properly and considered thoroughly, and not just, you know, thrown on the, oh, well, it's tier 3 pile. It was only 100 grand. It's not our money. That would upset me greatly. So I'm very keen, but that door swings both ways. If we're going to spend £100,000 of East Devon District taxpayers' money, then it needs to be on a very clear understanding that those bids are going to be supported actively and positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Despite what you've just said, do I take that as a proposal that we agree to those recommendations?
Certainly, Chair.
Can I have a seconder for that, please? Excuse me. Councillor Rowland, thank you very much. Amanda, can we go to a vote, please, on the 3 recommendations that we note, the publication of the prospectus, that we endorse the next step for the development of bids as identified in 5.6, and that we recommend to council a budget of up to 100,000 is made available from the business rate pilot reserve to enable consultancy for this.
So Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic blue hands if you are abstaining. That's a unanimous support for the vote, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And thank you, Andy, for that. And look forward to working with you and indeed our MPs on this in the months and years to come. Right, agenda item 22 now, which is the future of the new homes bonus consultation. We've got a report here from our service lead for planning, strategy and development management, Mr. Ed Freeman. Ed, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. So members will be aware, hopefully, that new homes bonus forms an important council funding stream based on the number of new homes delivered in the district above a threshold level. The council's received about £30.2 million over the last 11 years from new homes bonus, and we reckon we'll receive about £2.5 million in the forthcoming financial year. So it's an important funding stream for the council. The government's currently consulting on various options for reforming new homes bonus, but there's a distinct lack of detail in the consultation in terms of each option. So it's not been possible to model the impact of each of these options on council funding. The responses have, however, been prepared on the basis of seeking to protect this income stream and request a continuation of the current logic that sits behind new homes bonus, which is fundamentally that it is a reward to councils for delivering new homes in their area. The issues and options raised in the consultation include changing the split between district and county council. So currently 80% of the funding comes to the district and 20% to the county council. And it explores options for addressing that and perhaps allocating more of it to the county council. It looks at the affordable housing premium. So an additional amount is added to the bonus for each affordable home. And it looks at how that might be varied in future. It looks at whether to continue with a reward for bringing forward long-term empty homes into the mix, and whether the bonus should be used, assessed over a single year's housing growth or on an average of the last 3 years. There's also options looked at around changing the threshold for the net additional homes above which public payments are made, as well as rewarding authorities for improving housing delivery over previous time periods rather than the overall numbers. It also looks at more radical solutions like repurposing the bonus so that it's used to support infrastructure investment, or rewarding the use of modern methods of construction on new homes in the district, or indeed making payment of new homes bonus conditional on the council having an up-to-date local plan. Obviously, there are many implications of those options which the report seeks to address. Happy to take any questions on those responses, but I would say that those were discussed in detail at Strategic Planning Committee at yesterday's meeting and are recommended to Council to form the Council's response to the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Yes, and there has been a lot of thought gone into this, both at strategic planning. I know you and the portfolio holder thought about it a lot as well. So thank you for that. Right, so coming out, please, to anybody who would like to speak on that. And there's nobody I can see, in which case to bring it into Cabinet. And Cabinet, what we're being asked to consider is that I can't find it. I can't find the actual recommendation. Forgive me, it's going to be there somewhere.
Want to read it?
I've found it, Henry. Thank you for being there. The members consider the government consultation on the future of New Homes Bonus and agree the proposed responses to the consultation questions as the council's formal response to be submitted to the government. Councillor Dan Ledger, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just propose it as read? It was done to death yesterday and everyone complimented Ed on all his responses. They said how great they were. I just hope that Cabinet endorses it as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ledger. Councillor Marianne Rickson, please.
I second that proposal. It's very comprehensive and well thought out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Amanda, can we go to a vote on that, please?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. And again, that's unanimous in support, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you again, Ed, for that. We come to agenda item 23 now, mobile phone tariff payments in car parks. And we have to comment on this, the Service Lead Environment, Health and Car Parks, Mr. Andrew Ennis. Over to you, please, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Just by way of introduction, I wanted to say this is becoming an increasingly important revenue stream for the council. We've long since taken cash in the car parks. More recently, we've accepted card payments. The mobile phone payment option has been there for a number of years, but we have seen it accelerate very significantly during the pandemic. And what we've got before us today is a necessary step. We need to change service provider. We don't have delegated authority to do that, so we'd like Cabinet authority, moving on to a recommendation to full council to change our service provider to Ringo. It's a framework agreement that's already been procured jointly with other Devon district councils and the county council. It's a great deal for our residents, our visitors, and for the council, and means visitors in the region will have a single mobile phone app to enable them to park in pretty much all of the public car parks and all of the on-street chargeable parking bays across Devon, which I think is great news. Unless you want any more, I rest there.
You're on mute, Leader.
Thank you. No, I was just saying thank you, Andrew, very much for that. And personally, I agree with every word you've just said. Councillor Paul Haywood, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I support this wholeheartedly. It's one of those classic, absolute no-brainer. It sells itself on the report. So I'd like to propose acceptance of recommendations A and B from Cabinet to Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Haywood. Councillor Marianne Rickson, please.
I absolutely agree with that. Other authorities have already signed up to this. It makes absolute sense to have use the one same provider, one app for the whole county. Makes absolute great sense. Thank you very much. I propose that we adopt this.
Are you seconding Councillor
I'm
Hale
sorry.
or Councillor Rickson?
I second this. Yes, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nick Hookway, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, absolutely agree with previous speakers. This is something that out of district visitors will expect. I think it's ideal that we're all using the same provider, and I think it's going to be part of the new normal. This is what people will be doing, using their mobile phones for. So thank you to Andrew for bringing us to Cabinet.
Andrew, can I just ask a quick question? This doesn't mean that people can't still use cash in car parks, does it?
No, we've had a clear policy on this. We've discussed it at the TAF, and cash remains an option for the foreseeable future. It's an option alongside pay by phone. We have seen an interesting reduction. Cash used to be streets ahead of the other payment options, but they are catching up quickly. So maybe in the future we might lose cash, but at the moment it stays as an option.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. Councillor Megan Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Chair. You must have read my mind. You knew what I was going to ask, didn't you? And Andrew is aware of this because we've discussed it before about the cash payments. Because I do know quite a few people actually who have a car, but they don't have a mobile phone. And I think we just have to be always aware of that. I know it's probably a minority, and I agree, you know, the argument in the report is good, and I agree with what other people have said. But we have to remember that we have to be able to give people a choice, I think. It's about choice and fairness. And I don't think if we, and I know Andrew has said we're not there yet, but in paragraph 5, you talk about being a further move away from cash payments. And that it just worries me a bit, actually. You know, that option may eventually just disappear for people, which for some people would be not very good, not very helpful. So I just wondered what your comments were, Andrew, about that. And yeah, is the vision that eventually there will be no cash payments in, say, 5 years' time?
Andrew, yes.
No, I don't have as clear a vision as that. I'm living the same world that the rest of us do. I can see cash becoming less important, and particularly so during lockdown. 2 or 3 years ago, the majority of that £3 million that would have gone through our ticket machines would all have been cash. During the lockdown year, you would have seen in the budget report that we're probably about £1 million down in the current year because of the pandemic, but the rest of that budget came in. There was about £1 million in cash, about £500,000 on cards, and about £250,000 on pay by phone. So it's already shifted significantly, but still a very significant level of usage of cash. And I wouldn't like to put a timescale on when that's going to disappear. I won't be driving it, but I will respond to whatever's happening in the real world.
Yeah. Or if ever, hopefully, if ever it disappears.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I just think it's important to remember those, and there may be a minority, but we still have to think about them. The minority.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
I can't get anywhere to take my groats anymore. I'm really angry about that. Right. No, thank you very much for that, Andrew and Megan. That's fantastic. We've got a proposal and a seconder. Can we go to a vote, please, Amanda?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. That's unanimous in support of the vote, Chair.
Thank you very much again, Amanda. We stay with Andrew Ennis to discuss the Exmouth Sideshore car park at agenda item 24. Andrew, please.
Again, thank you, Chair. Many of you will be familiar with the new Exmouth Water Sports Centre opened on Queen's Drive in the town. The Council's car parks team has been in discussion with the owner and operator of the site for several years now expressing an interest in operating the car park on their behalf. They have been looking at a number of private management options, but we're pleased to bring this report to you today. They have approached us late in the day, so time is of the essence, but asking us now to come up with a proposal for managing the car park with the East Devon brand as a familiar public sector enforcement model. I think there are a number of advantages to us taking advantage of this, so I have responded positively, and we are working with our legal team to make sure the legal agreement is in place and ready if we get the necessary approval today from Cabinet. The most difficult part of this I wanted to just raise is we really want to do this, but there is an issue over the dates. If you look at the first section of the report, they would like us to start this on the 12th of April, which is great. I think we can have all the logistics ready, but I think all you're able to make today is a recommendation onto full council to give me the authority to enter into this agreement. So we might need to consider how we move this forward by the date they want us to start, if you give us that approval today, Chair.
That's an interesting question left hanging there, Andrew. Henry, how is there a way of squaring that circle where we can't really spend money on car parks under the current constitutional arrangement without having gone to council to have it agreed?
Well, no. I mean, you need to get the council approval. I mean, there are urgency provisions, but I think the bottom line is this is where we want for council, because there is time to enable a meeting to be called. So I struggle to see how good provisions can apply.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Henry, for that. Councillor Paul Miller, please.
Thank you. And it's all my fault that you have to go to council to get the approval. So sorry about that. I want to declare an interest, first of all, as the council appointed director of the Exmouth Queen's Drive Community Interest Company, along with Councillor Hawkins. We've actually been playing quite a big sort of role in trying to push for the council to run manage the car park, because we feel, and I certainly feel, that it's actually in the best reputation. You know, it's actually to the benefit of the reputation of the entire scheme. You know, we already know that there's quite that there's a lot of confusion on the seafront already. It's part of being part of a two-tier authority, where Devon County Council have their own tariffs, and so do East Devon. To add a third regime with a sort of high fine aspect, which would come from a private car parking company, to me felt like something that could undermine the scheme. Clearly, I feel there are benefits for the council as well. This will be the first kind of agreement the council has entered into of its kind, and as the report shows, the council's costs would be fully recovered. There's one final point which actually relates to the last discussion, which does relate to this. I understand it's the intention of the venue manager of Sideshore that this car park be cashless. In the report, it does state that we would, the council would recover costs, but I understand it's the intention for it to be cashless. So I may go back to the venue manager and sort of relay some of the comments that have been made this evening from Councillor Armstrong. Although personally, I'm in favour of cashless, and I think there is a choice, because you can use a mobile phone and you can use a payment card, and you know, I think nearly everybody, if not everybody, has a payment card now. So yeah, I hope that Cabinet endorse this report, and I hope as well that we can get an extraordinary meeting arranged through the chair of the council to ensure this decision, if it goes ahead, can be ratified. So East Devon can start managing it from the 12th of April. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. And Councillor Brewster Sarum, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a very positive thing. I would be concerned about the fact that in item 3 it says that the car park comprises 41 standard car parking spaces, 6 electric vehicles, and 2 disabled spaces. My question is, given the fact that there is great demand for parking in that area, do we feel that there is enough space for disabled access? Because when Mickey's gets going, I think it's going to transform that area. And we know there's been a lot of interest in it. And I know that with the recent grassing over the temporary space, a lot of people have said that on Facebook, which I know isn't always a litmus test of people's opinions, but there is concern that we don't have enough car parking spaces. So that's really my question. Do we have enough spaces to cope with enough our disabled customers and visitors to that area? So I'd be very interested to know, because the way the report indicates only 2 spaces. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, let's can we leave that one hanging for the moment, Councillor de Saram, if
absolutely, absolutely,
come back to that one. Thank you, Councillor Steve Gazzard, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The previous 2 speakers raised some important issues. I would concur that I do think that we need more than 2 disabled car parking spaces down there. I also think that to be consistent, we should be offering people to be able to use cash, so that all the car parks are using the same facilities. I just, forgive me if I've misunderstood, but will this be classified as a short-term or long-term car park? And will people who have already bought permits to use in Exmouth, will they be able to use that car park as well? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Yeah, Andrew, if you could pick up that one from Stephen, and perhaps the disability one as well from Bruce and Steve.
For sure. Thank you, Chair. I was just going to double check the disability one, so I may come back to you in a minute. I've got a feeling they might even have altered the design already, but I will check that and come back to you. It isn't going to be either a traditional short or long stay car park in terms of this council's tariffs. It is going to operate on its own tariff, and it will allow all day parking, but all day parking will be rather expensive. So it's a hybrid, I suppose, is the closest answer. But the Community Interest Company has set out its objective to be a premium car park in a premium location. They want to raise extra revenue, some of which is going to be donated onto charity, and they believe that model will be successful. The combination of having a premium location and the donation of the extra revenue to good causes. So it will be a really interesting exercise to see how that works in practice. Come back to you on the disabled spaces, and again with the cash provision, the machine that we're going to install there will accept cash. There is an extra cost for handling cash. I understand why the site operators are quite keen that we don't run a cash operation here. There is always the cash option across the road in our own Queen's Drive car park, of course, but I think we can feed back to Sideshaw and via Councillor Miller to the Community Interest Company as to whether they want it to actually be cashless or not. But I will come back to you in a few minutes, if I may, on the disabled provision.
Thank you, Andrew. And if it's not this evening, don't worry. We can follow that up by email afterwards. Councillor Gazzard, you're still there? Yeah, please, Steve.
Could I just come back? Thanks for that, Andrew. Can we then ask Sideshaw, if I understand correctly what you said, that they put a sign up saying that people who have a permit then are not going to be able to park in there? Because I'm sure there will be some confusion that people who've already bought a permit via the district council will think that they can park in there. And for clarity, I think it would help if Sideshaw could put a clear identified notice up to that effect. Thank you.
Okay, you noted that, Andrew, presumably as a suggestion.
Sorry, I forgive me, I forgot to answer that part of the question. We are working with Sideshaw on the detail of the signage. It will make it absolutely clear that the only permits valid there are specific Sideshaw permits. The regular East Devon permits will not be valid in that car park. We had a similar arrangement with the car park we operate outside the Manor Pavilion in Sidmouth, and if we go ahead with the arrangements, similar deal will be done with Honiton Town Council for their Dowell Street car park in Honiton as well. So it's not unprecedented for us not to allow East Devon permits in a car park that we're associated with.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, members, for all those very useful questions as well. Councillor Marianne Rickson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Also looking at the 6 EV chargers, these presumably they must be additional to the 30 that we announced the other day, which hopefully are going to be approved at the meeting on the 21st. Are they also going to be run via Gamma Energy, I'm wondering?
Andrew, do you know an answer to that one?
Sorry, Chair. I do, Chair. Sorry, I was just fiddling for my mute button. No, they're not. Sideshaw have entered into a contract directly with the supplier, so the East Devon District Council has no dealings with the electric charging operation at that site.
Thank you. Councillor Nick Hookway, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to respond to the comment about car parking on Queen's Drive. This issue was debated at the Queen's Drive Delivery Group early in the new year, and the decision was made to grass over the former temporary car park to return that land to public amenity use. There were views expressed by members of the Queen's Drive Delivery Group that we have to think about more sustainable uses of getting to the seafront. In fact, we had some people who suggested that we either turn it into a one way or even shut it off completely to traffic, which I think was probably a bit extreme. But we have to balance out what is used there, what is available, and the Queen's Drive Delivery Group felt that that particular land should go back to being public amenity land. And it's now being adapted and will be available for the public to use during the summer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hookway. So, Cabinet, we have 2 recommendations. The first, that we enter into an agreement with Sideshaw, an initial 6-period extended years, delegated authority to the Strategic Lead Housing, Health and Environment, in consultation with Strategic Lead Finance and Governance and Licensing. And secondly, that we agree to amend the East Devon off-street parking places order as necessary to include the car park. Do we have anybody who's happy to propose that, please? Oh, Andrew Ennis, sorry, I see your hand is up again.
I apologise, I was unable to raise my electronic hand for some reason. The answer to the disabled question is the latest plans confirm that they have got 3 disabled car parking spaces, and that is within the guidance as to what is a reasonable number of disabled.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, great, thank you. Am I right in thinking that Councillor Hookway is happy to propose and Councillor Ledger to second?
Yeah, I just want to make absolutely clear that
Councillor Hookway and Councillor.
Yeah, just personal declaration of interest. I'm the ward member where that Sideshaw is located, but I'm happy to propose. Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Dan, are you looking to second?
Happy to second. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we go to a vote on that then, please, Amanda?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic hand if you're abstaining. So that's 9 votes in support and 1 abstention, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amanda. We now come to our agenda item 25, exemption from contract standing orders, fire risk assessments, housing, and John Golding, please, is going to speak on this, our strategic lead for housing, health and Environment. John, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've nothing to add to the report. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Okay, do we have any comments, questions from anybody outside or inside? Yeah, Councillor Bruce de Sarum, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I must congratulate John on doing this because everyone needs to be safe in their home. And I just wondered if you'd had any statistics of any fires and other issues related to this before we've signed this policy, how safe we were. I mean, I know we were very safe as an authority anyway, but I'm presuming that by entering into this agreement, we're going to be even more safer in the communal areas, which is clearly necessary. So I just wonder, have we had any issues that we need to know about? Or if we haven't, then that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you, Chair.
John, do you have any answer off the cuff on that, or would you need to look that one up?
I can provide some more detail, but I'm thinking back and I can only think of, say only, 3 fires in the last year in our property, which is 3 too many, but fairly low. And it is these type of checks that we undertake in our properties, our tenants' properties, mainly in properties with communal areas, that help us keep that number to the minimum. But happy to research that a bit more and provide Councillor de Sarum with some more detail. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. And I apologise for taking your time. It's just that obviously fire is such an important matter, and then I can see that John has done a thorough research, and I commend him and the team for their work.
Thank you, Councillor de Sarum, and thank you to John. Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Thanks, John, for your reports, and I'd simply like to move the recommendation as set out in the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Councillor Miller, please.
Yeah, thank you. Jack's beaten me to it. Jack's beaten me to it because I was going to propose it, but I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan, for that as well. So, Amanda, can you take us to a vote, please?
Cabinet, please use your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic blue hands if you're abstaining. For those watching online, the vote is underway. And that's a unanimous vote, Chair, in support.
Thank you very much indeed, Amanda, and thank you again, John. Right, we now come back to the almost started, so he could have gone home early, but sorry about this, Simon. Restart grants, agenda item 26, and we've got Simon to make a few, what I understood, were very short remarks on that. Simon, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report's been presented and written, sorry, it's been written by Libby Jarrett, the service lead. I think she anticipated she'd be on leave, so she's written a very detailed report, bearing in mind that I was going to cover it in her absence. So hopefully I'll just take any questions. The report covers off the Restart grant scheme that comes in from the 1st of April, government-led scheme, fully funded by government. And this scheme is actually quite detailed, prescribed in terms of who it's for and how we're to administer it. As I said, it's fully funded. The reason we have to adopt a policy is it is done under discretionary powers, but each policy by each authority will look very similar. So just happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Simon. Okay, anybody want to come in on that one at all, or is it pretty much self-evident what we're being asked to agree? Nobody outside Cabinet? Would anybody in Cabinet like to go with the recommendation, which is the Cabinet agree the Restart grant scheme policy to delegate authority to the service lead for revenues, benefits, customer services and corporate fraud and compliance to make any technical changes to the policy? That's Libby, isn't it? Councillor Jack Rowland, please.
Thank you, Chair, for reading that out. It saves me having to do it. So I'll just move it as was read out by you.
Thank you. I tried to earn my money, Jack. Thank you very much for that. Okay, have we got a seconder, please? I can't see any hands or.
Councillor Loudon just raised his hand.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I was being lazy, Chair. I was being lazy by waving.
No, I've lost visuals on everybody. I don't know what's going on. Horrifically, I can only see myself and Henry, actually. I don't know what's going on. Not that Henry's horrific, so I don't mean that. It's horrific seeing myself. Okay, Amanda, can we go to a vote then, please, on that?
Cabinet, please raise your green ticks if you're in support, red crosses if you're against, and raise your electronic blue hands if you're abstaining. So that's 9 votes in support of the motion, Chair, and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that, Simon, and thanks to Libby as well when you see her. Thank you again to all our officers here tonight. I think when we do the next agenda, we need to try and find a way that we can clump your various bits together so that we don't make all officers sit here for 3 hours. So sorry about that. We'll think that through next time more. Thank you very much, members, for all your contributions tonight. And
happy Easter, Chair.
Well, thank you. I was going to go there. I was just about to go to
sorry, didn't mean to jump in.
No, thank you very much indeed, and to you, and may you have many eggs and so forth. So
one can only hope.
With those cross-party Easter fraternal greetings, that brings our meeting to an end, and I'd like to thank everyone, including any members of the public watching online, for taking part. However, can I just remind all those present that the supporting officer will confirm when the meeting is no longer being recorded or going live, and until then your contents will be live to the public.